Fabricated Sports is on the air. From Wrigley Field in Chicago, Gillette presents the exclusive play-by-play report of the fourth game of the 1945 World Series between the American League champions, the Detroit Tigers, and the National League champions, the Chicago Cubs. Men, look sharp, feel sharp, be sharp. Use Gillette Blue Blades with the sharpest edges ever honed. Good afternoon, baseball fans everywhere. This is Al Helfer with Bill Slater and Bill Corum greeting you for the Gillette Safety Razor Company. Well, for the fourth game of the 1945 World Series here at Wrigley Field in Chicago, we have something that may turn out to be not to our liking because the skies right now are very dark, more than threatening, and they're very overcast. The temperature is in the 70s, and we have a slight wind blowing from behind home plate out toward center field. But rain has been falling since about 1 o'clock. And, of course, it necessitates our waiting slightly to see whether or not this ball game is actually going to get underway. And, of course, the thousands that have poured in here to Wrigley Field in Chicago are sincerely hoping that this ball game, the first in this 45 series, here in the city of Chicago, will get underway at beautiful Wrigley Field. Now, ladies and gentlemen, before this ball game does get underway, I should like to turn right around here and introduce to you once more a very favorite personality of mine, and I know the thousands of you listening in. I think when I say Uncle Billy Corum, who writes a lot of sports, and a lot of people really read what Billy writes, well, let's get him in here and just see exactly how he feels about being here in Chicago. Uncle Bill Corum?
Well, thank you, Al. I feel that same way about you. Also, they say a fella is no older than he feels. Maybe that he's no older than he pitches, too. We'll know more about that this afternoon when Pop Ray Prim gets out there to chuck them up for the Cubs against the Tigers in a ball game that it seems to me the Tigers just about have to win to stay in the running for this series. Of course, that necessarily isn't so because Steve O'Neill will have Newhouser and Virgil Firetrucks, his two big aces, to come in with in the next two games if the Cubs should win this one. But it will mean that the best he can get with them then will be a tie, and that wouldn't look so good for the Detroit Hopes. So I think that Paul Dizzy Trout, the Indiana Hoosier with the blazing fastball, or at least usually is blazing, it hasn't been so much as it when he got tired in the late season this year, will have to do something about stopping these rampaging Cubs this afternoon, or they may be trouble for the Tigers. Now that band down there just walked in the corner of the field, and they got tin hats on, white tin hats, American Legion band. Apparently, they turn them over, they'd get a little water in them, which is the way the soldiers, of course, used them in this war. But I don't believe that this ball game is going to have to be called off as it looks at the moment. I'm no weather prophet. It's misting pretty hard. There are umbrellas up here in the stands. But I don't think that if the rain doesn't get harder that they'll call the game. Yesterday, Senator Happy Chandler, having to make his first field decision as High Commissioner of Baseball, arrived at Briggs Stadium in Detroit a little bit late. When there was some question of calling off the game, he'd been to a luncheon. But he was prompt and on the job here today. As a matter of fact, I got to ride out sort of in his police escort, had one motorcycle policeman with his car, and our taxi got in behind it, and we got here in good shape. I also see Ford Frick, president of the National League, walking around down there on the field, and all the brass hats of baseball will be here to make this decision. It's a day very similar to the one in Detroit, except that yesterday, except that the rain held off there and is not holding off here at the moment, but it's a very slow and soft mist. Now, if this game does have to be called off, it won't be the first time that a Detroit and Cubs or Chicago World Series has been postponed because of darkness. That game started, but back in 1907. Now they're going onto the field to take the cover off, and just as we guessed, they're going to start this game all right. The umpires are down there. The boys are coming out of the dugouts to warm up. The crowd also warms up with a big cheer, and we're going to have this fourth game. I started to say that in 1907 they had to call a game in this field because of darkness, and also we all remember that game that they called in New York in 1922 when the Yankees and the Giants were playing because of lightness, because umpire Hillebrand was looking at a big sun as big as a big double pumpkin up there, but for some reason he called the game off at the end of the 10th inning, if my memory serves, and Judge Landis, a madder man I never saw, finally wound up giving the money back to the Red Cross, or rather giving it to the Red Cross, all the return returns from that game. So we're going to have the fourth game here with Richards and Trout, the battery for Detroit, and Livingston and Ray Prim, the old veteran southpaw for the Cubs. And I believe we're going to have a real good ball game played under pretty good conditions, because I believe this rain is going away and not come back another day during this series. Anyhow, that's Quorum's column for the moment, but I'll be back after the game to tell you how things look to me from the press box.
Thank you, Bill. Let us give you the starting lineups prior to the start of this game. For the Detroit Tigers and the other visitors here this afternoon, here is their starting array. Hitting in the number 1 spot for Steve O'Neill's Tigers will be Skeeter Webb, Jimmy Webb, the shortstop. Hitting in the number 2 spot for Detroit will be second baseman Eddie Mayo. Mayo at second base and hitting second. Hitting number 3 is Roger Duck Kramer in center field. Hitting number 4 for Detroit in the cleanup spot will be Hank Greenberg, playing in left field. Greenberg will clean up, hitting in the number 4 spot and play left field. Hitting number 5 will be Roy Cullenbine, the switch hitter, and he'll be playing in right field. Cullenbine in right field. Hitting in the number 6 spot for Detroit will be their big first baseman, Rudy York. York will hit 6th for Detroit. Hitting 7th will be the little Tennessee gentleman, Jimmy Outlaw. Jimmy Outlaw at third base will hit number 7. This afternoon, leading the number 8 spot will be the Detroit catcher, Paul Richards, the tall Texan. He'll be hitting 8th. And hitting 9th will be the pitcher, Dizzy Trout. Trout will hit 9th. He's won 18 games this year and lost 15. On the other side of the fence for the Chicago Cubs, and they are 1-up in this series, as it stands 2-1 in favor of the homestanding Chicago Cubs. Stanley Hack, their third baseman, will lead off. Hack leading off and playing at third base. Then comes Don Johnson, the second baseman. Johnson at second base. Hitting in the number 3 spot is Harry Peanuts Lowry, the left fielder. Lowry in left field for Chicago. Hitting in the number 4 spot is the National League's leading hitter, Phil Cavaretta, the Chicago first baseman. Cavaretta hitting in the number 4 spot for Chicago and playing at first base. Hitting 5th will be their fast Andy Pafko, very fleet of foot, and playing in center field. Andy Pafko in center and hitting number 5 for Chicago. Hitting in the number 6 slot will be right fielder Bill Nicholson. Nicholson in right field. Hitting in the number 7 spot is their catcher, Mickey Livingston. Livingston catching. And hitting in the number 8 spot is shortstop Roy Hughes. Hughes playing at short for Chicago. And their pitcher is the veteran Ray Prim, the 39-year-older, who certainly has been doing a great job for Chicago this year. He has won 13 ball games and lost 8. But he was a late starter, and it was the latter portion of the season that proved that Ray Prim had the stuff that Chicago wanted this year. So the opposing pitchers for this afternoon's ball game, and it's clearing now here at Wrigley Field in Chicago, and we're going to get underway here very shortly. 2 teams out warming up now. The umpires have made their appearance, and we'll give them to you. At the plate will be National League umpire Jocko Conlon. At first base will be American League umpire Bill Summers. At second base will be Lou Jorda of the National League, and Art Passarella of the American League will be the umpire at third. And now it gives me great pleasure to wave in my colleague on this broadcast, Bill Slater. Bill, how do you feel about Wrigley Field in Chicago?
Oh, well, I feel just the same as everyone does, Al. I feel mighty good. As a matter of fact, at this particular moment, the batting orders are being announced over the loudspeaker, which you can probably hear in the background, and that will indicate to you that this game may be delayed 3 or 4 minutes in getting underway. The canvas has been completely removed and rolled out of sight now, and the opposing pitchers are working very hard on warming up. Dizzy Trout is warming up along the first base line, and Jimmy Miller from Celeste, Texas, oddly enough, is catching him. Right down in front of us here, left-handed Ray Prim is completing his warm-up pitches, and he is being caught by big Red Smorgasbord Smith. Red Smith, you know, is the line coach of the New York Giant football team, and he's a baseball coach for the Chicago Cubs. He had already taken up his job with the football Giants, and then when the Cubs got into the World Series, Charlie Grimm called him back and said, "Come on back, we need you." So Red has been warming up Ray Prim down there, and I think Livingston is moving over to take up the job now. this is, of course, a Chicago ball game this afternoon. And as the World Series throng moved in here to be joined by the local baseball enthusiasts, the game took on a definite flavor of Chicago. And Chicago, the rousing and energetic inland capital of America, imparts its spirit and its flavor to anything that happens here, of course, as you know. The band would be playing jazz and would be jazzing and jitterbugging around the outfield there as they played Hold That Tiger. And then they break into Hail, Hail, the gang's all here. Let's focus the glasses a little bit on Paul Howard Dizzy Trout, who is still pitching with that right-handed throwing arm of his down just opposite first base. Trout is, as everybody in baseball knows, one of the most colorful figures in all baseball today. They call him Dizzy because there are points of resemblance between him and Dizzy Dean. He is, for one thing, a very garrulous fella. He's talking. You'd think he was a radio announcer. And as a matter of fact, too, he's very confident. But that confidence of Dizzy Trout's is based on his ability to perform. That ability has been somewhat handicapped lately because he's had trouble with his back. Back in July, he spent 10 days in the hospital. And the excellent record that he piled up last year when he won 27 games for Detroit, which is an amazing record. The year before last, he won 20. That record's been shaved down to 18 victories this year. That's pretty good going, too, as far as that goes. This fellow had a daughter born to him, did Paul Dizzy Trout, on the very first day he pitched this year. And now the tremendous roar from the background means the Cubs are taking the field. But Dizzy Trout, the guy we're talking about, is still down there warming up. And he looks very fit today. And talking to him yesterday in Detroit, he said, I can beat those Cubs. And he'll be doing his best to do it, of course. Now the Cubs are in the field, and in just a moment we're going to have our national anthem. Everyone rises, the band will play, and we are all going to sing our national anthem, ladies and gentlemen. In the field, Mickey Livingston is behind the plate. At first is Phil Cavaretta. At second base is Don Johnson. At shortstop is Roy Hughes. At third base is smiling Stan Hack. In left field is Harry Lowry. In center field is Andy Papko. And out in right field is Big Bill Nicholson. And now Ray Prim has come out of the dugout. He's striding to the mound as the 39-year-old veteran of the baseball wars. And this, of course, is his first World Series start. And this is a high moment in the baseball life of Ray Prim. Now down there at third in the coaching box for the Tigers is stout, sturdy Steve O'Neill, the redoubtable manager of the Detroit Tigers. O'Neill, as you know, comes from Minooka, Pennsylvania. Over there at first, coaching there for the Tigers is Art Mills, who was born up in Utica, New York. The umpires are in their place. Jocko Conlon of the National League is behind the plate. Summers of the American League is umpiring at first. At second base is silver-haired Lou Jorda. And at third base, umpiring, is Art Passarella. And now Chandler tosses out. Commissioner Chandler, Senator Albert B. Chandler of Kentucky, tosses out the first ball. And it is tossed back to him by the plate umpire, Jocko Conlon, and Happy makes a perfect catch. He's seated in the box down toward first base, just off to the right of the catcher. And now the skies become grayer over Chicago, and they hang a little bit lower. And what looked like a clearing sky a couple of moments ago, I think maybe changed just a trifle. But nonetheless, this ball game is about to start. Here comes the first batter out of the dugout for the Detroit Tigers. The Tigers are inhabiting the dugout down the first base line. That's where the visitors stay here at Wrigley Field. And, of course, the homestanding Chicago Cubs are in the dugout down the third base line. And now the cry comes, play ball. And the shortstop of the Detroit Tigers steps up there. It's about right-handed. Webb has had 3 hits and 12 times up in this series. He hits right-handed. He's the star golf-playing son-in-law of manager Steve O'Neill of the Tigers. And Jimmy Skeeter Webb steps in there. The tall, slender fellow from Mississippi, who weighs only 150 pounds, takes a look out at the mound, and there's 39-year-old Ray Prim kicking the rubber out there and getting ready to go with that left arm of his. Now he bends way over. Here comes the first pitch. Webb takes it. It's a called strike. 1 strike on Skeeter Webb. Webb crowds the plate just a trifle. There's the big number 28 on his back. Prim bends very low in his windup. Delivers. It's high and outside. Ball 1. 1 ball, 1 strike on Skeeter Webb. Prim will pitch with considerable deliberation. He's a control pitcher. Pitches to spots, taking lots of time now. Here it comes. It's fouled off by Webb. Rolls up against the screen back here. Now it's rolling down off the screen, and I do think they have that habit here of whistling the ball off the screen after it's been fouled. The count on Webb is 1 ball, 2 strikes. Prim rubs up the new ball very carefully. Bends way over in his pitching motion, cuts it loose. Webb takes it outside, ball 2. 2 balls, 2 strikes on Webb. The first batter for Detroit in the 4th game of the 1945 World Series. And the Cubs lead, of course, as you know, 2 games to 1. The outfield plays Webb straight away, not too deep. Prim delivers. Webb swings on it. There's a ground ball down to third. It's taken by Stan Hack. The throw to first is in time. Webb is out. Webb out third to first, with the dependable 36-year-old veteran Stan Hack playing the ball perfectly. Now here's Eddie Mayo coming up, the second baseman, to be batter number 2 for Detroit. Eddie bats left-handed, as you know, and he's gone 2 for 10 so far in this season. Warming up down in the bullpen for Chicago looks like big Paul Derringer. Mayo, the left-handed hitter, is ready. Prim delivers him. Fast call strike. Ball had nice hook on it. Lipped the inside corner on Eddie Mayo. Mayo hails from Clifton, New Jersey. Got a wife and a very nice family there. Here it comes. Mayo swings on it, slaps it out into center field. In comes Pafko on a nice running tack. That was a very hot line drive off the bat of Eddie Mayo. It went out into center field, and Pafko had to charge in, fleet as the breeze, to come in and take that on the run for the out. Pafko's defensive work in the center garden has been a big factor in behalf of the Cubs so far. 2 away for Detroit now in the top of the first, and here's Doc Kramer, another left-handed hitter. Doc is the veteran center fielder of the Detroit Tigers. He's gone 3 for 10 in the series. Here's the pitch to him that's swung on him right back to the mound. Prim has it to go to first, and lots of time, and Kramer is out. The Tigers go down in order in the top of the first inning, and the score is Chicago 0, Detroit 0. In an exciting game during the pennant fight, Tiger pitcher Dizzy Trout picked up a hot grounder and fired it back to catcher Richards, nailing a runner, sliding home. Presto, catcher Richards relayed the ball to York at first, beating the batter. Now for a double play in shaving comfort, just as unusual, give your whiskers the old 1-2, the quick, easy, all Gillette way. 1, soften them up in jig time with Gillette shaving cream, lather or brushless. 2, whisk them off easy as whistling with today's Gillette Blue Blade in your Gillette razor. What shaves you get, how quick, how easy, how smooth and refreshing. Both Gillette brushless and Gillette lather are top-notch beard softeners that blanket a barrel of water against your face, giving every bristle a thorough soaking. Men enjoy the extra luxury of shaving this quicker, easier, all Gillette way. And remember, look sharp, feel sharp, be sharp. Use Gillette Blue Blades with the sharpest edges ever honed. All right, the last half of the first inning. And popular Stan Hack, the star third baseman for all these many years for the Chicago Cubs, steps up there. And on the mound is the big, husky, confident Dizzy Trout. And the announcement of Hack at the plate draws a roar from the crowd. Behind the plate is Paul Richards, and Hack is ready to go. First pitch to him is a little outside for a ball. Trout, broad-shouldered and big, stands 6'3", weighs 200. Hack has gone 6 for 14 with 2 doubles so far. Swings on one. There's a ground ball down to shortstop. Skeeter Webb has it. The throw is into the dirt, but kicked up nicely by Rudy York for the out. Big kicker for Rudy. Looked mighty good on that. The throw was off to his right. He scooped it up, backhanded with his glove. Kept his foot on first and retired Hack. Now here's Don Johnson. Johnson bats right-handed. Takes the first pitch inside, a fastball, very fast. Johnson hasn't hit the last 2 games. First game he went 2 for 5. Takes another one very fast. That's a called strike. Trout looks in there. Trout wastes very little time on the mound. As soon as he has his signal from Richards, he fogs it in. Here it comes. It's swung on. Hit down to first. York bobbles it, picks it up, chases everybody away, steps on first ahead of Johnson, and Johnson is out to York unassisted. 2 out for Chicago in the last of the first. No score yet. A big hand for Peanuts Lowry, the next hitter. Lowry bats right-handed. Lowry did all right by himself yesterday. He went 2 for 4, one of them a double. The day before yesterday, on Thursday he went 2 for 4, and then on the opening day Wednesday he went 0 for 4. So that's what Lowry has done as he steps in here in the 4th game. He's an ex-GI as Peanuts. And like the 2 men who preceded him, he lives in California. In fact, 5 of these Cubs, 5 of their 9 today live in California. Lowry bats right-handed. Pitch to him is high. Ball 1. 2 out, nobody on if you just tuned in. We're in the last of the first inning. No score in the game yet. Trout's got light brown hair. He's big man, big Indiana Hoosier. Lowry swings on one, bloops it out into right field. In comes the right fielder. Cullenbine makes a nice running catch. So that's all for Chicago in the last half of the first inning. They go down in order, as did the Detroit Tigers in the top of the first inning. So at the end of a full inning of play, there's nothing across in any department in this 4th game of the 1945 World Series. And now out comes the catcher, Mickey Livingston. He's standing behind the plate waiting for Ray Prim, who started off in excellent style to get himself out there and get underway. All the talk around the lobbies of the jam-packed hotels today has been, how do you think old Ray will do? And do you think Dizzy Trout's back is better? Well, you can't pass any verdict, of course, up to this point. Only 1 inning has been played. But Prim looked very sharp, and Dizzy Trout looked mighty sharp, too. Prim is going to be put to a bit of a test right now as the first batter comes up in the top of the 2nd inning, and because that's Mr. Hank Greenberg. Greenberg has driven in 3 of the 4 runs that have been scored so far by Detroit in this World Series. And, of course, he's the popular favorite. Mainly so because of that long ball hitting of his. Greenberg is there, ready now. Stands 6'5", weighs 215. He's a big man. Served over 4 years slightly in the United States Army in this war. In fact, Greenberg, as you know, was in before Pearl Harbor. Then he was discharged, and then he re-enlisted. Now big Captain Hank is in there. He got a good round of applause, as you noticed, from the Chicago crowd. And a Prim can pitch Greenberg as perfectly as Passeau did yesterday. Of course, Passeau did darn near everything perfectly. He won't have any trouble. Here it comes. Greenberg takes it. It's a high and inside pitch at the bat shoulder. Greenberg stands straight up. Presents a pretty good-sized target. Prim delivers slow and inside this time. That's ball 2. Greenberg looks down to Steve O'Neill, approaching at 3rd. Stout Steve from Manuka. Prim bends way over. There's a fastball strike. That was a curveball. Midway between the waist and knees over the outside corner. 2 balls, 1 strike on Hank Greenberg, the first batter for Detroit in the 2nd inning. No score in the game. Prim labors. Hit foul on the ground behind the catcher. That makes it 2 strikes on Greenberg. Chicago crowd simply holds its breath bated on every pitch to Big Hank Greenberg. And they probably keep track of the strikes on him with their heartbeats. Because he is, of course, the big Detroit menace. 2-2, Ray Prim has on him now. That Prim bends way over when he winds up, delivers. It's swung on, he struck him out. Struck out Greenberg the first time he faced him. And, of course, that was a deafening roar from the Chicago crowd. Well, anybody who can strike out Greenberg deserves a roar from anybody. Now, here's Roy Cullenbine, batting right-handed today against left-handed pitching. This is the first left-handed pitching that the Cubs have put up there. So Cullenbine, all the rest of the time, has been batting left-handed. He hasn't hit yet in the series. This is his 9th time up. Swings on one. There's a high pop-up down toward first. Cavaretta is under it. He takes it easy for the out. And again, Cullenbine is turned back. 2 away for Detroit in the top of the second. Here is Rudy York. And he is the only batter yesterday to get a hit off of Claude Passau. And as Bill Corum pointed out, there was a very odd twist to that. The last man to pitch a one-hitter in the World Series was Ed Roebuck, a Chicago Cub, back in 1906, and the only man that hit him was the opposing first baseman. That's just what happened to Passau yesterday. And this is the guy who did it, Rudy York, a right-handed batter. There's a fast call strike to Rudy. He turns around, looks at Jocko Conley a little bit. 1 strike on Big Kickapoo. Rudy has gone 2 for 10 so far in the series. Swings on that one, hits it back past the mound. It's fielded very nicely by Don Johnson to throw to Cavaretta in plenty of time, and York is out. So that's all for Detroit in the top of the second, and again they go down in order. At the end of an inning and a half of play, the score is 0-0. Watching the game with us here today is Joe Cronin, the veteran player-manager of the Boston Red Sox, who broke an ankle early in the season and had to stay on the sidelines for the first time in his career. Say, Joe, how did it feel not to be out there at shortstop?
I didn't mind it much, Bill, for I saw mighty fancy pitching by Dave Ferris. Who has what it takes, plenty of speed and swell control.
Well, tell us, Joe, in your book, what does it take for smooth, comfortable shaving?
Why, the Gillette Blue Blade, of course. It's sharp, plenty sharp, and mighty easy shaving. I wouldn't think of using any other kind.
Does that go for the rest of the boys on the club?
It sure does. With the Red Sox, it's the Gillette Blue Blade almost to a man.
Thanks a lot, Joe Cronin. Fans, wherever men shave the world over, the Gillette Blue Blade gets the call. Remember, look sharp, feel sharp, be sharp. Use Gillette Blue Blades with the sharpest edges ever honed. Now here's Cavaretta coming up. First man up for the Cubs in the last of the second, and he gets a tremendous ovation from his home crowd. And this is his home crowd because he was born, grew up here. He started playing his baseball here when he was just a teenage kid. Bill bats left-handed. There's a fast strike, but Dizzy Trout gets in on him. Cavaretta is just batting a cool .500 in this series, 5 for 10, one of them a homer. There's another call strike on him, and Trout was beautiful with those 2 pitches. Old Diz stands out there. He wastes no time at all getting off his stuff. Here it comes. Cavaretta takes it. It is called strike 3. Struck him out on 3 pitch balls. Trout had a lot of stuff on those 3 pitches, believe you me. Now the batter is Andy Papko. Papko bats right-handed. He hasn't hit in the last 2 ball games. Went 3 for 4 in the first one. Here's the pitch to him. Good for a called strike. That's 4 called strikes that Dizzy Trout has whipped in there on Chicago batters in the last half of the second. 4 in a row. Now Trout's taking a little more time getting off this next delivery. Winds up. Here it comes. Papko swings on it, slaps it down toward first. It's knocked down by York. The throw to first is in time. York had trouble with it. It was a hard hit ball with a twist on it. He knocked it down, had to scamper to his right. Dizzy Trout was covering it first, and they got Papko by half a stride. Very neat infielding. That's 2 out for Chicago in the last of the second. And here's bad Bill Nicholson. Nicholson leads all players in this 1945 World Series in runs batted in. He's bashed in 5 of them. And there he is again with that characteristic picture that one will always associate with Bill Nicholson. Big, husky gentleman from Maryland with his chin stuck out. Right out at that pitcher, swishing that bat back and forth. Even when he backs out of the batter's box as he did then, he took a couple of vicious swishes with the bat. Now he's ready to go. Trout pitches him low into the dirt, bounces up into the glove of Richards. Ball 1. Outfield plays Nicholson about straight away, but very deep and right. Here it is. Good. Call strike. Curveball. Nipped the inside corner waist high on Nicholson. Up to this point, Trout has an amazing assortment of stuff. He cuts it loose. It's good. That one was so fast you could barely see it. It was just above the knees. A hard, fast one. Oh, boy. Trout had every ounce of that 200-pound frame of his back of that pitch. 1 ball, 2 strikes on Nicholson. Trout works. Nicholson swings, strikes out on a low curve. So Trout struck out 2 of them in the last half of the second inning. And again, there's nothing across for the Chicago Cubs. In fact, that's the way it's been through all stanzas of these first 2 innings. And this thing looks very tight and very tense. And while we're waiting for the top of the 3rd inning, which will bring us Jimmy Outlaw, Paul Richards, and Dizzy Trout himself, suppose we pause 10 seconds for station identification. Remember, men, look sharp, feel sharp, be sharp. Use Gillette Blue Blades with the sharpest edges ever honed. This is the Mutual Broadcasting System.
This is WGN Chicago, serving the Middle West.
All right, the 3rd inning is about to get underway. And seated down below us, just behind home plate, are the blind and vision-impaired veterans from Dibble General Hospital out in California who have been the guests all through the series. And again today, they're using their earphones that have been provided for them. And we've just received word that Glenn Staines of Detroit, who operates the well-known Pathfinder Project for the Blind, has offered 4 of his famed-trained Doberman Pinscher lead dogs to the blinded war veterans who are attending the series. I think that's swell. All right, here's inning number 3. 0-0 the score. No runs, no hits. There have been no errors. There have been nobody left on bases. Here's Outlaw. Little Jimmy has had 2 hits out of 11 times up in the series. He's a right-handed batter. And he's ready to go. Pretty fast on his feet, that little guy. Now Ray Prim, warming to his task. Winds up, delivers. Outlaw takes a high pitch to ball 1. Prim bends way over low when he winds up. That swinging left hand almost hits the ground. Here it is. Outlaw swings, misses. That was a beautiful curve. That's the story of Prim. He's got control. Puts that ball where he wants to put it. When you hit it, you're hitting his ball, not yours. Outlaw takes that one. A little high and outside. That's ball 2. 1 ball. 2 balls, rather, and 1 strike. Prim taking a lot of time. Delivers. Outlaw swings on it. It's hit down to shortstop. Up with it is Roy Hughes. The throw over to Cavaretta is in time. A nice stretch by Phil Cavaretta, incidentally. Takes care of Outlaw. Shortstop to first. Now here's Paul Richards. This will be Richards' 8th time at bat in the series. He hasn't hit us yet. He's a tall, right-handed batter. He's a sports writer in the wintertime, incidentally, down in Texas. Prim gets ready. Here it comes to Richards. He swings on it, beats it into the ground, foul. Strike 1. It rolls back to the screen. Richards has an odd stance at the plate. That was being discussed on the train coming in from Detroit last night. That's due to a severe knee injury that he suffered when he was quite young. So he's had to stand this way at the plate, which isn't too unusual, except he doesn't crouch very much. feet are pretty even. Grim pitches, Richard swings on it. There's a fly ball going into left field. Peanuts Lowry is over to his right, camped under it now, and he's got it. 2 out. Now the batter is Dizzy Trout himself. There he comes, walking from the dugout and walking very rapidly. Walks forward on his toes a little. That's Dizzy. Trout bats right-handed, and don't sell him short as a hitter, as a matter of fact. This season he got 25 hits out of 101 times up for a batting average of 248. Last year he hit 271. Mixes in homers and long hit balls at times. That's Diz. That pitch to him is low. Prim knows about Trout. He'll be working to him very carefully. Prim probably got some tips from Hank Roy, who came over from the American League and used to pitch a left to Trout. Trout swings on that one, hits it down right into the glove of Hank. That was a very hot line drive. Hank threw his glove up to the left, held the ball, and practically rode it. Stuck in there, and that's all for Detroit now in the top of the third. Nothing across for them. So at the end of 2.5 innings, the score is Detroit nothing, Chicago nothing. Well, now some men have the knack of saying a lot in a few words, and Joe Cronin, the veteran manager of the Boston Red Sox, is one of them. When he told you last inning that the Gillette Blue Blade has what it takes for quick, easy shaving, well, he said a mouthful. Fans, the Gillette Blue Blade is sharp, plenty sharp. More than that, it has the smoothest finished edges ever produced. But here's something that Joe Cronin didn't mention. Those edges are hard enough to cut glass. Yes, you actually can cut glass with today's Gillette Blue Blade. Now, men, edges of glass cleft cutting hardness stay sharp for one comfortable shave after another. That's why the Gillette Blue Blade far outlasts ordinary blades and saves you money. Now, here's the whole point of my story. When you can enjoy tops in shaving luxury and save money too, well, that's something. So remember, look sharp, feel sharp, be sharp. Use Gillette Blue Blades with the sharpest edges ever honed. Now here's Mickey Livingston up. Trout pitches him, and it's a fast called strike. Mickey stands in there batting right-handed. So far in the series, he's gone 3 for 8. Swings on that one, and it's slapped out into left field for a hit. Greenberg is chasing it deep out there. And Livingston, after a long turn at first, goes back to first, and it's a single, the first hit of the ball game. Livingston did it. He broke the ice. That's the first hit of the game. Livingston is on at first. And now a little bit of time is called while some bats and towels that are piled up outside of the dugout of the Tigers are removed. Now here's Roy Hughes, who didn't hit up until yesterday, but yesterday got a single to go 1 for 9 in the series. He batted in a run yesterday. Roy bats right-handed. There's a throw over to first. Livingston gets back. That's Trout for you. They'll watch those base runners. Hughes is ready. The pitch is way outside. Looked like a pitch out, but no throw to first. That's ball one on Roy Hughes. This Hughes was born in Cincinnati, but he lives out in Los Angeles. Pitch to him is an attempted bunt that's missed, and the ball was good anyway. Strike. 1 ball, 1 strike on Roy Hughes. Tom is scheduled to hit next. Livingston leads off first. There's the throw at the plate. There's a bunt back to the mound. Trout has it. The play is going to be at second, and it's good. And the throw back to first is not in time. So Hughes' intended sacrifice results in a force out on Livingston at second. Trout being very alert, coming down off the mound and to his left, grabbing that ball and whipping it to second. He may have twisted an ankle on the play, I'm not sure. He's walking over toward the first base line now, toward the dugout. He turned very sharply. Trout is walking very rapidly now over toward the stands, and Steve O'Neill comes out to intercept him. Trout goes over and knocks his spikes against the brick wall there. If you're scoring, Livingston was out at second, pitcher to shortstop. It's 1-6 the way we scored. And on the play, as Hughes went in there, with the throw going from Skeeter Webb back to Rudy York, and an attempt to get Hughes there, which they did not succeed in. Apparently first base was kicked a little loose too, so first base is being glued down a little bit tighter. I think they put a new strap on it. And Trout's all right. He just apparently had an impulse to walk over there toward the wall and kick his foot against some bricks, which is what he did. He's back on the mound now and has asked permission for a few warm-up pitches. And Bill Summers, the first base umpire, signals that first base has been nailed down substantially. So here we go again. One out. Roy Hughes, with Forrest Livingston at second, is on at first. And here's Prim up. Now Trout stretches. Prim bats right-handed. Bunts one down toward first. York has it, and the play is going to be at first, where Eddie Mayo is covering. York grabbed the ball, looked at second, but thought he didn't have time to get Hughes there. So for Prim, that's a sacrifice. And he is out 3-4. First baseman to second baseman covering at first. That moved Hughes down to second, and up comes Stanley Hack. Hack went out on a ground ball to the shortstop. Skeeter Webb his first time up. Now Webb calls time while he picks up Roy Hughes' glove that was parked in on the infield and throws it out of the way. Now the pressure will be on Hack. Hack has been one of the best of the Cub hitters so far in the series. Swings on that one, it's a foul right back into the screen. Strike one. Livingston, eager on those base paths as the Cubs have been throughout the series, takes a long lead down there toward third. 2 out. A runner at second. It's Hughes that's leading down off second. Hughes. Livingston was fourth. There's Mayo running behind Hughes, but there's no throw. Friendly Chicago crowd shouted their warning to Mr. Roy Hughes. Now Trout's ready to pitch again to Hack. He does so. Hack hits it on the ground. Down to third base. Outlaw has it. The throw to first is good. Scooped up out of the dirt nicely by York. So Hack is out. Third to first. And that is all for Chicago. A threat in the top of the third. No runs, 1 hit, 1 base runner left on, and there were no errors. That's the last of the third inning, and the score is still 0-0. And that was the first hit of the ball game, coming there in the last of the third inning by Livingston to break the ice. Prim has given up. No hits up to this point. And the top of the Tiger batting order will be coming up here at the top of the fourth inning. The Tigers so far have gone down in order. 3 up and 3 down in each inning. Scores 0-0. And Prim, who was up at bat in the last of the third inning, walks slowly out to the mound now. He's ready to pitch to Mickey Livingston. Somebody's being paged on the loudspeaker. And I think they're going to put another new strap on first base. Here comes the groundskeeper out with another strap, and Bill Summers is there. He's going to supervise the adjustment of another new strap on at first base. Well, you know, right in the thick of the fray here, it's very difficult to make any predictions as to how the tide of battle is going to turn in this thrilling fourth game of this 45 World Series. But you can tell one thing, you've got a couple of pitchers who are in the prime out there today. A lot always depends on whether a pitcher is having a good day or one of his less good days. But both the 39-year-old veteran Ray Prim, who's warming up out there now while we wait to get the strap adjusted on first base, both Prim and Dizzy Trout seem to be in their good days. So that means for you and for me and for the throngs gathered here in Wrigley Field, one of those thrilling struggles in which maybe just some little break will decide the ball game, or maybe there'll be an explosion. But there has been none so far. The nearest thing to a threat, as we told you, came there in the last half of the third inning. On a hit by Livingston, Livingston was forced by Hughes, who tried to sacrifice. Hughes was on, and Prim sacrificed him down to second. And then Hack came up and grounded out to the third baseman, his opposite number, Jimmy Outlaw. The Cubs are wearing the home uniform, the white uniform, and the Tigers have switched over to the traveling gray. And these Cub uniforms today are brand spanking new. They've never been worn before. They're still working on first base out there, which gives us a chance to look around the place here. And as you look down in the dugout of the Chicago Cubs, you see one of those great familiar figures of baseball down there. That's good old Andy Lotshaw, who for 25 years has been the trainer of the Cubs. And you can Jimmy Sianis, the interesting bat boy of the Cubs, is watching everything with 5 eyes in his face. Trainer Roy Forsythe is over in the dugout of the visiting Tigers. And little sandy-haired Gilbert Hoy has been brought down from his home in Detroit to act as bat boy for the Tigers here. Now first base seems to be all right. She has been securely affixed to Mother Earth. And we're ready for the start of hostilities at the beginning of inning number 4. Skeeter Webb, the leadoff man, will be the first fellow up, starting the second batting round for the Detroit Tigers. 0-0 is the score if you just tuned in. Ray Prim bends way over. Delivers to the right-handed hitter a fastball strike just below the shoulders. It nipped the outside corner. It looks as if Prim selects the spot where he's going to put it and then whips it there. Webb takes that when it's outside for a ball. 1 ball, 1 strike on Jimmy Webb. Slender and dark-haired is Mr. Webb from Mississippi. Pitch to him is swung on. There's a ground ball, foul outside of third base. 2 strikes. And in the gray skies off behind the scoreboard there floats a big airliner. We're about a mile straight ahead of us here from the tossing surface of Lake Michigan. Chicago. 1-2 on Webb. Here's the pitch. He swings on it. Throws a ground ball down to Hack. He scoops it up beautifully at third and throws Webb out. That's Hack. That was old Stanley Kemp on first base out there, which gives us a chance to look around the place here. And as you look down in the dugout of the Chicago Cubs, you see one of those great familiar figures of baseball down there. That's good old Andy Lotshaw, who for 25 years has been the trainer of the Cubs. And young Jimmy Sianis, the interesting bat boy of the Cubs, is watching everything with 5 eyes in his face. Trainer Roy Forsythe is over in the dugout of the visiting Tigers. And little sandy-haired Gilbert Hoy has been brought down from his home in Detroit to act as bat boy for the Tigers here. Now first base seems to be all right. She has been securely affixed to Mother Earth. And we're ready for the start of hostilities at the beginning of inning number 4. Skeeter Webb, the leadoff man, will be the first fellow up, starting the second batting round for the Detroit Tigers. 0-0 is the score if you just tuned in. Ray Prim bends way over. Delivers to the right-handed hitter a fastball strike just below the shoulders. It nipped the outside corner. It looks as if Prim selects the spot where he's going to put it and then whips it there. Webb takes that when it's outside for a ball. 1 ball, 1 strike on Jimmy Webb. Slender and dark-haired is Mr. Webb from Mississippi. Pitch to him is swung on. There's a ground ball, foul outside of third base. 2 strikes. And in the gray skies off behind the scoreboard there floats a big airliner. We're about a mile straight ahead of us here from the tossing surface of Lake Michigan. Chicago. 1-2 on Webb. Here's the pitch. He swings on it. Throws a ground ball down to Hack. He scoops it up beautifully at third and throws Webb out. That's Hack. That was old Stanley Camfield Haggerty's best. That was a bounder, a slow one. He came in, he had the scoop on it, just on the edge of the grass. Pretty difficult place to pick that ball up. But he got it, flipped it over to cover at it first, and that was all for Webb. 1 out for Detroit in the top of the 4th, and here's Eddie Mayo. That's left-handed. The left-handed pitcher, Ray Prim, delivers Mayo. Fast call strike. Mayo is 2 for 11 in the series up to this point. Prim working. Mayo started for it, but checked his swing just in time. It was just outside. Ball 1. Mayo is an interesting character. As Bill Corum told you, he's inventing a sunblast for infielders. He's also taking a correspondence law course. He's busy. pitch is low and outside to him, ball 2. 2 balls, 1 strike. Prim working with considerable deliberation. He's taking his time. Probably got a pattern in his mind of the kind of a game he wants to weave here. He's working hard on it. Now it occurs to him that he ought to have the rosin bag, so he turns around and picks that up. Rubs his left pitching hand on it. 2 balls, 1 strike on Mayo. Now Mayo's a little tired of waiting, and he backs out of the batter's box. Uses his bat to knock the mud out of his spikes. Not too much mud, because the infield is in good shape. You pick up a little mud walking outside of where the tarpaulin was. Now Prim's ready, and here it comes to Mayo. Strike. Mayo didn't think that was coming in, but it hooked over there just above his knees. 2-2. You get the feeling that the crowd is getting tenser and tenser, and maybe even a little more quiet, but more tense as time goes on. Prim delivers outside. Ball 3. 3-2, a full count. Now there's a stir in the crowd, because this is an important pitch. See if there will be a Detroit base runner. There hasn't been one yet. Pitch is low and outside, and Mayo is walked, and that's the first base runner for Detroit. Eddie is on. As we've told you, Prim very seldom walks them. He's the control master. He only walked 23 men the whole season. The walking of Mayo the other day by Hank Wise was pretty fatal. Let's see what happens now. Here's Doc Kramer up, left-handed batter. Pitch to Kramer, call strike, beauty, just below the waist, curve on the outside corner to the left-handed hitter. Kramer has had 3 hits out of 11 times up in the series to this point. He's driven in 1 run. Mayo leads off first. Prim works. Kramer swings on it. Clean hit to right field. Here comes Nicholson in to field it. Mayo breaks his stride and holds up at second, ahead of a beautiful throw by Nicholson. That was, of course, the first hit off Prim. Mayo, who is now at second, and Kramer at first, are the first base runners that the Tigers have had. And the batter coming up is Greenberg. And out in the bullpen, down the left field line, big Paul Derringer is warming up for the Cubs. They've had a man working there practically all afternoon. That's part of Charlie Grimm's plan of management here in the series. But now, a specter of the game the day before yesterday looms as the skies brighten. But foreheads are furrowed because it's Greenberg at the bat. Big right-handed slugger. Swings on that one, hits it down toward third. It's going through into left field for a hit. Mayo is rounding third, heading for the plate, and he comes in to score. Unmolested, the throw is to third. Greenberg didn't slug it over the fence, but he got a solid, substantial hit to left field. Scored Mayo from second. Kramer went down to second on the play, and Greenberg is on at first, and the Tigers are in front now by a score of 1-0. And that's the 4th run batted in out of the 5 the Tigers have scored to be credited to Mr. Greenberg. Now the batter is Cullenbine. Cullenbine to this point is 0 for 9 in the series. He asks the second base umpire, Jordan, to move just out of his line of vision. Jordan obliges, moving over to his right. Cullenbine, a switch hitter, is batting right-handed today instead of left-handed. Here's the pitch to him. He swings on it. A high foul comes back into the crowd. That's a strike. Tigers have scored here in the top of the 4th inning. 1 out. Greenberg, who drove in the run, is at first. And Kramer, who got a single to right for the first hit off Prim, is at second. Mayo, who has walked, scored. Twice he's been walked and scored in this series. Pitch to Cullenbine is swung on, and it's hit down the third base line, and it is fair. And here comes Kramer, rounding third, coming on in to score, and Greenberg holds up at third, and it is a double for Cullenbine down the left field line, just in fair territory. Now there's a bit celebration here. Charlie Grimm comes out of the dugout. He's walking to the mound. He'll have something to say to Prim. Here in the top of the fourth, the Tigers have gone ahead 2-0. A walk to Mayo with 1 out, a single by Kramer, a single by Greenberg, and now a double by Cullenbine. Cullenbine's first hit of the season. And Paul Derringer is coming in. Big Paul is coming in. That will be all for Prim. Prim, of course, taking no chances. So we'll have a brief spell here, which will give us an opportunity to reconstruct what has happened here in the top of the fourth inning. As we told you just a couple of moments ago, but you'll want to etch this on your memory because it's 2 runs in a World Series ball game. The first batter up was Skeeter Webb. He was retired on a ground ball hit down to Hack. Hack making a very nice play, and that meant that 10 men in a row had been retired by Ray Prim. But Prim then walked Mayo. Greenberg hit, and Cullenbine doubled. That means 2 runs and runners now at second and at third, and 1 out. So Grimm has lifted Prim. And here comes Derringer. Derringer for the season won 16 and lost 11. And here's a big veteran of the ball of this game of baseball, Big Paul Derringer. And when I say he's big, I speak advisedly because he stands 6'4" and he weighs 230 pounds. He's from Happy Chandler's home state. Born in Springfield, Kentucky. Been living up here in Chicago recently. Derringer's a right-hander, as you all know. So here's Big Paul Derringer. Now the first batter he faces is Big Rudy York. And here's the situation, and it's no easy situation for Mr. Derringer. He has Greenberg menacing there at third. He has Cullenbine, who has just doubled just inside of third base. At second, there's only 1 out, and the batter is York, and he'll be followed by Outlaw. York is going to be intentionally passed. The 4 pitch outs to York, loading up the bases, increasing the opportunity for a double play, of course. First was open. So there's pitch out number 4, and York is intentionally put on. Now York is at first, Cullenbine at second, Greenberg at third. 2 runs are scored, and here's Jimmy Outlaw. Jimmy has had 2 hits out of 12 times up at this point, and there's pressure on the little third baseman. He bats right-handed. Derringer pitches, swings on one, hits it down to the second baseman. The play at second for 1 out. The play back to first is not in time. Greenberg scores with run number 3. Outlaw hits into a force out, driving in a run. Cullenbine crossed to third on the play. Greenberg came in from third to make it 3-0 in favor of Detroit. And York was retired at second. The second baseman to the shortstop. The throw on to first. Cavaretta was not in time. Prim, of course, is charged with that run because he put Greenberg on. It's 3-0 now. 2 out. Cullenbine is at third, and Jimmy Outlaw. They tried to make the double play ball on him, but Outlaw, very speedy, as we told you earlier in the broadcast, beat out the relay to first and got on, and the run crossed. Now here's Paul Richards. He's 0 for 8 in the series, bats right-handed. Swings on one, fouls it into the ground, it bounces back to the screen. Hank Roy and Bob Chipman are working in the Cub bullpen now. Roy, formerly of the Yankees, and Chipman, a Brooklyn boy. Batter at the plate is Paul Richards. Runners at first and third, 2 out. Richards swings on one, slaps it out into center field. It's good for a hit. Cullenbine comes in to score easily, and Outlaw holds at second as Pasco fields the ball to third. 4 runs for Detroit in inning number 4. They have teed off on Cub pitching. That run there that crossed Cullenbine, of course, is charged to Prim because he put him on. Richards, with his first hit of the series, is on at first. Derringer is having not too much luck. Outlaw is at second. 2 out. Lizzie Trout coming up to hit. There's Trout walking along on that stride of his. He walks forward with a springy step on the balls of his feet. Old Diz is unmistakable anywhere. He looks pretty happy about this 4-run lead he's got now in the top of the 4th inning. There's the pitch to him. He swings, misses, and almost jerks his head off. He was swinging on that one. His head went jerking back. He missed it. Big Paul Derringer, the big Kentucky gentleman, having trouble. Trout takes an inside pitch close to him. Ball 1. 1 ball, 1 strike. On Paul Howard Trout of Terre Haute, Indiana. Now Broy is not working in the bullpen. It's just Chipman. Lets that one go. He started for it and then almost fell off balance checking his swing, and it was good. 1 ball, 2 strikes on Trout. 2 out, 4 runs in. Runners at first and second. Here's the pitch. Trout swings on it. There's a ground ball to the left of the shortstop. The play is at second for the force on Richards, and that retires the side. Ball was scooped up by the shortstop, Hughes, and flipped underhand to Don Johnson, covering at second, and they got Richards coming down. That means 4 runs for Detroit in the top of the 4th inning on 1, 2, 3, 4 hits. They had 2 base runners left on, and there were no Cub errors. So the score, as we head for the last half of the 4th, is 4-0 in favor of Detroit. All other things being equal, a left-handed hitter has an advantage over the right-handed one in getting down to first, as of course you know. Yes, and for softening tough whiskers in a hurry, Gillette brushless shaving cream has a big advantage, too. You see, it removes moisture-resisting oil from your beard almost instantly. Thus, the water it blankets at the base of the whiskers is absorbed quickly, and in no time, your stubble is thoroughly softened for smooth, easy shaving. Gillette brushless is superior in other ways, too. It's greaseless, rinses instantly, and can't clog your razor or bathroom drains. Until recently, our entire production of Gillette brushless went to the armed forces, but it's becoming easier to obtain day by day. When your dealer has Gillette brushless in stock, ask for a tube, 25 cents, and enjoy extra shaving speed and comfort. Now the last half of the 4th inning. The first batter up is Don Johnson. He's a right-handed hitter, is Don Johnson, the first batter up in the last half of the 4th inning. Trout pitches him. Johnson swings on it, and he misses it. Trout with a 4-run lead is working hard now. There's an attempted bunt that's bounced foul. Johnson was trying to bunt one, cross up Jimmy Outlaw, who's playing fairly deep at third on Johnson, a right-handed batter. Bounced into the ground foul. Bounced up and hit Johnson, as a matter of fact. That makes 2 strikes on the second baseman of the Cubs. And the Cubs are going to have to start hitting that apple as it's pitched into them by Dizzy Trout there, because the Tigers are ahead now 4-0. Trout takes a big white handkerchief out of his pocket, mops off his fevered brow, and steps back to that mound. Now Trout will work a little more slowly, I think. He usually does. Winds up, delivers, swung on by Johnson. There's a hit. Bouncing into center field. Doc Kramer picks it up, throws it into second. Johnson halfway down, turns around, goes back to first. And so the Cubs threatened to lash back in the last half of the 4th inning. The Tigers took 4 runs in the top of this one. First man up, Johnson. Hit the 0-2 pitch, incidentally. Slapped it into center field for a single. Now here's Peanuts Lowry. Lowry has 4 for 13 so far in the series. He's a right-handed batter, a little fella. They play him to pull to left. Pitch to him is good. Fastball by Trout on the outside corner. Fooled Peanuts. 1 strike. Next one is swung on, slapped out into right field. It's falling for a hit. Cullenbine picks it up, throws it in, and the runner holds at second and at first. That's 3 hits off of Trout now. Two of them coming very quickly here with the first two men up in the last of the fourth. And the tremendous roar and expectancy on the part of the Chicago throng here means that Phil Cavaretta, the leading hitter in the series and the leading hitter of the National League, is at the plate, batting left-handed. Trout pitches him. Cavaretta leans away from the close one. Up close to his chin, ball one. And this is drama, complete drama. Georgie Castor gets up and starts pitching in the bullpen for the Tigers. And Trout pitches hard to Cavaretta for ball two. This is the kind of thing that makes this the great American pastime. 2-0 the count on Cavaretta. Trout is ready. Here's the pitch. Cavaretta takes it. It's a ball strike. Waist high, a curveball on the inside corner to the left-handed batter. Cavaretta has 5 hits to his credit. Out of 11 times up, one of them a homer. Count on him now, 2 balls, 1 strike, and Trout takes a little time as Lowry leads off first and Johnson off second with nobody out. And now, just to sort of break the tempo of things, Cavaretta backs out of the batter's box. Now he climbs back in. Trout looks him over. Trout looks at second. Now he looks at first. Now he kicks some dirt around on the mound. And now torn up bits of paper commence to float down from the second tier. And now the pitch to Cavaretta. Now he swings on it, and there's a ground ball foul down the third base line. Topped that one. For a moment it looked as if it might roll fair down the third base line. Everybody was on the move on the base paths. Ron Johnson was all the way down to third, and Peanuts Lowry very fast was down to second. And Cavaretta, of course, had crossed first by the time that ball rolled foul. That makes the count 2 balls, 2 strikes on Cavaretta. Now Tommy Bridges gets up also to warm up in the bullpen for the Detroit Tigers. Neither manager is giving an inch here today. Tigers are ahead at the moment, 4-0. Chicago trying to rally here in the last of the fourth. Trout stretches. Cavaretta is ready. Here it comes. Cavaretta swings on it. It's foul. Into the stands down the left field line. Hopko is on deck. This is the best chance, of course, that Chicago has had up to this point to get some runs across that plate. Trout's ready. Here it comes. It's outside. Now it's a full count. 3 balls, 2 strikes. Cavaretta stands loosely there looking at the situation. He has a long grip on that powerful bat. The outfielders are very, very deep. Johnson at second with itchy feet. Lowry at first. 3-2 the count. Trout on the spot. Here it comes. It's swung on and missed, and the ball is picked up with the catcher after he dropped it, and Cavaretta is touched. And he's out, and he's mad. Cavaretta didn't think he had taken a complete swing on that one. That's why he was mad. But the plate umpire, Conlon, whose business is to do things about that, says it's a third strike. Richards dropped the ball, picked it up, slapped it on him. Incidentally, that's the second time that Cavaretta has struck out. That's 3 strikeouts now for Dizzy Trout. The other victim was Bill Nicholson. Now it's Popko standing up there with runners at first and second and 1 away. Popko grounded out to the first baseman, Rudy York, his first time up. And he hasn't hit since the first game. Now Trout goes through some typical Trout maneuvers. Takes off his glasses on the mound, pulls a pretty white handkerchief out of his pocket, and very calmly wipes off the lenses of his glasses. Now he holds them up in the air just to see that everything is all right. He decides they need a little more rubbing. That is Dizzy Trout. And that's one of the reasons they call him Dizzy Trout. He's still rubbing his spectacles. And truly it's an interesting spectacle. Now he decides to mop his face. Now he adjusts his glasses again, puts them on, puts the handkerchief back in his pocket, reaches over, picks up the rosin bag, squeezes it a little, throws it down, pulls on the peak of his cap, steps to the rubber, looks at the plate, and there's Popko ready to hit. All right, Trout is ready to pitch. Here it comes. Popko swings on it, hits it back past the mound. It's fielded by Mayo, and the throw is to first, and now the throw to second is not in time, as Mayo had stopped Lowry. happened. The ball was hit past Trout, who made a dive for it and fell on the ground. Eddie Mayo, the second baseman, fielded it. Lowry saw Mayo between him and second base, so he stopped. Mayo stopped momentarily. Then he threw over to first in time to get Patko. And York's throw back to second, where the shortstop, Skeeter Webb, was covering, was not in time to get Lowry, who had to slide in by that time. Now there are two out. Runners at second and third now. Johnson crossing down to third and Lowry to second on that last play. And here is Nicholson. And Nicholson struck out his first time up. He has batted in 5 runs in the series so far. And he has bagged Bill Nicholson in person. And the sun is commencing to break through a little bit, and the clouds are rolling back. And the score is 4-0. There's the pitch. Nicholson swings on it. There's a high foul coming back into the stands. Stands just above the press box here. That's 1 strike on Nicholson. So Trout is doing himself a fair country-sized job of getting out of this hole. First 2 men up, Johnson and Lowry singled on him. Then he struck out the big gun, Cavaretta. Patko, another big gun, rolled out to the infield. Now here's Nicholson. He's number 3 in big gunnishness for Chicago. Big left-handed slugger. Lizzie has a strike on him, and there are runners at second and third. Here's the wind-up. Trout winds up, and while he's winding up, the man at the plate, Mr. Nicholson, backs out of there. And here comes Charlie Grimm, and I think he feels that Mr. Trout was guilty of a balk. Trout committed 1 balk during the regular season, but that was not one, says the plate umpire, whose business it is to say about those things. And Charlie Grimm, Jolly Charlie, who at the moment is not so jolly, walks back over to the third base coaching box. There's a guy with a great spirit, Grimm. And the pitcher and the catcher are talking things over midway between the mound and home plate. Charlie Grimm, you know, used to be a baseball broadcaster right here in Chicago. He was a good one, too. Worked right here in this very booth. Now Trout's back on the mound. Nicholson is in there ready to hit. Here's the pitch to him. He swings, misses it. Strike 2. That ball's 2 strikes to count on him. And Trout only has to register 1 more strike on this batter here to get out of this trouble. Johnson at third, Lowry at second. 2 out. The pitch outside. Ball 1. 1-2 on Nicholson. Trout stands steadily on the mound, studying Nicholson. Hasn't moved, Trout hasn't. Now he gets ready. Nicholson is set. Here it comes. Nicholson swings, strikes out. Twice he has struck out Nicholson, and twice he has struck out Cavaretta. And the score at the end of 4 innings of play is 4-0 with Detroit in front of Chicago. You know, most men enjoy a corking good scrap between top-flight boxers. Now, if you're one of them, tune in Gillette's Cavalcade of Sports for the major boxing event of the week every Friday night. Consult your daily newspaper for time and station. Remember, every Friday night is fight night on Gillette's Cavalcade of Sports. Now, while we're getting ready for the start of the 5th inning here in this thrilling ball game, we're going to pause 10 seconds for station identification. Remember, men, look sharp, feel sharp, be sharp. Use Gillette Blue Blades with the sharpest edges ever honed. This is the Mutual Broadcasting System. All right, Big Paul Derringer, huge effective right-hander from Kentucky, is ready to go as inning number 5 breaks upon us. And the score is Detroit 4, Chicago nothing. And the top of the batting order for the Detroit Tigers comes up here in the 5th inning, just as it did in the 4th, when the Tigers batted around to register those 4 runs on 4 hits. That means that Jimmy Webb is the first hitter for Detroit now, right-handed batter. First time he's faced Derringer. Derringer pitches him low and inside. Now Derringer, who is big and portly, is quite big around the middle. Delivers, it's good. That was a 3/4 sidearm delivery that whisked over the outside corner. On Skeeter Webb, 1 ball, 1 strike. Big Paul pitches. He attempts to bunt it. There's Mr. Webb, and he misses it. Missed it cleanly. 2 strikes. Becoming positively sunny now. Derringer ready. Pitches. Webb hits it down the right field line. I think it's going foul. It's going over near the stands, and now it curves into the stands. Down the right field line. Count on Webb is 1 ball, 2 strikes. quiet now settles over the Chicago crowd here. Their beloved Cubs are trailing. Detroit in front, 4-0. Pitch to Webb is called strike 3. Now Webb is squawking a bit. That's the first strikeout for Derringer. Flynn hung up just one. So that's the second Tiger to strike out this afternoon. On the other hand, Trout has struck out 4 of the Cubs, but that's been confined to 2 men, Cavaretta and Nicholson. He struck out both of them twice. And here's Eddie Mayo, whose walk back in the 4th inning started the trouble for Chicago. Mayo swings on one. There's a high fly ball going into left field. Peanuts Lowry floats to his right and in a little bit, and he's got it. That's 2 out. The batter now is Doc Kramer. Kramer hit, scored a run his last time up. And the odd thing is, the day before yesterday, one of the turning points in the 4 runs that Detroit scored was the walking of Mayo, and that happened again today in inning number 4. There's a slow ball tossed by Derringer, a pop ball from a big man, and it's high and outside for a ball. Derringer holds the ball behind him in an odd way, now winds up. Delivers, Kramer takes. Just a little inside. Ball 2. Derringer asked about the call on that one, but he's assured it's ball 2. That's what he was afraid of. Here it is. Low. Ball 3. Ball 3 on Kramer. Greenberg on deck. Side-on pitch. The strike. Kramer was just standing there, never moved his bat a bit. It was up to Derringer to get it in, and he did. 3-1. Derringer winds up, delivers. It's swung on by Kramer. There's a clean hit out into right center field. Chasing it is Nicholson. He scoops it up and rolls forward to the wall. And Kramer goes to second and holds up there. We'll get the official scoring on that in just a moment. It looked like an error on Nicholson. Brilliant sunshine bathed the diamond down there. Doc Kramer is at second. That was Kramer's second hit out of 3 times up in this ball game. We haven't got the official score's verdict on that yet. But I think it'll be counted as an error on Nicholson. We'll do an official check on that for you. He was fielding the ball, trying to field it rapidly, of course, and it rolled through his legs. And Capco, who was over there assisting him on the play, had to go chase the ball. It was an error on Nicholson, says the official score. So Kramer's at second, and here's Greenberg. Derringer pitches him high and inside, ball 1. 4-0, Detroit leads in the top of the 5th. Derringer working, Greenberg taking its high. And when the pitch is high to Greenberg, it's pretty high, because he's pretty high himself, 6'5". Of course, Derringer's no pygmy. He stands up there, 6'4". We get the picture of 2 great big men working out on each other. At the moment, Greenberg's a bit in the driver's seat. 2 balls, no strikes to count on him. Doc Kramer is leading off second. That one's low. Ball 3. Of course, the strategy here would indicate that Derringer's not going to pitch anything too good to Mr. Greenberg. He's the long ball basher. 3-0 it is. The pitch is good, taken by Greenberg, of course. 3-1. Now let's see what happens here. Doc Kramer hit the 3-1 pitch, you know, on Derringer. Slammed the cripple to right field. See what Greenberg does about the 3-1 pitch. Here it is. Greenberg took it, and it was high for ball 4, and he's on. Runners now at first and second with 2 out here in the top of the 5th inning, and the batter up is Cullenbine. We'll see Cullenbine on the other side of the plate now. An odd thing happened there when Cullenbine was up in the 4th inning. He's been batting right-handed today against Prim, who pitches left-handed. Now he'll bat left-handed against the right-handed pitching of Derringer. Cullenbine hadn't hit up until the 4th inning in the whole series. He got a double batting right-handed. He won't on that one. That's a fast ball strike. Curveball just below the waist to Roy Cullenbine. The dope on Cullenbine is he hits better left-handed than he does right-handed, but he's gotten his only hit of the series right-handed. That's high. High and outside, ball 1. one strike. Towering Hank Greenberg, walking off of first. Doc Kramer, backing off of second. Pitch to Cullenbine is swung on. It's hit down to Cavarati. He fields it flawlessly. A hard ball to handle. Steps on first, and Cullenbine is out. So in the top of the fifth inning, no runs for Detroit. One hit, two base runners left on, and one Chicago Cub error, the first Cub error of the series, incidentally. Now, as we head for the last half of the fifth inning, the score is Detroit 4, Chicago nothing. Major League Baseball will look a lot different next year, for many a famous player is coming back to join his team. Yes, and the famous easy-shaving Gillette Tech razor is coming back, too. Right now, you'll find it on many a counter all over the country. And week by week, more and more dealers will have it. So, men, keep your eyes open for your post-war Gillette Tech with all-metal gold-plated head, complete with 5 super keen Gillette Blue Blades at the pre-war bargain price of only 49 cents. Remember, fans, the Gillette Tech and the Gillette Blue Blade are made for each other. They fit exactly, work together beautifully, and you get smooth, comfortable, good-looking shaves. When his shipment arrives, ask your dealer for the famous Gillette Tech razor plus 5 easy-shaving Gillette Blue Blades, 49 cents. Now, the last half of the fifth inning, here's my colleague, smiling Big Al Helfer, all ready to go on a thrilling ball game. Come in, Al.
Well, Bill, you're absolutely right. Good afternoon, everyone. This is a thrilling ball game. Right now, the Detroit Tigers are leading in this game 4-0. And in the last half of the fifth inning, the first man up is Mickey Livingston, the catcher. A right-hand hitter, and out on the mound, Dizzy Trout makes his first pitch for Detroit. It's a fast curve that's under the knees for ball one. Big Diz over his head again, fires another fastball that is wrapped foul back of first base. That was a line drive that was really spiked, but fell foul about 15 feet. So the count now on the first Cub up in the last half of the fifth inning is 1-1. Livingston came up in the third, if you recall, and smashed a single into left center field. He has 1/3 of the hits off Trout. Time is being called now, just a minute, by Bill Summers, the umpire behind first base. Someone down in the Tiger dugout is getting some sunglasses for center fielder Doc Kramer. The sun has come out brilliantly here at Wrigley Field in Chicago, and time is still called while the sunglasses are being passed out. We neglected to tell you the start of the ball game about the distances here at Wrigley Field because we were very much engrossed in telling you how beautiful the park was here, but we'll give you those distances in a minute. Now Trout pitches to the plate, and Livingston swings on a high curve and fouls it back into the second tier. 1 ball, 2 strikes. That's the count on Livingston. We're in the last half of the fifth inning with the Detroit Tigers leading 4-0. Trout over his head, the big right-hander throws. There's a ball laced very solidly out into center field. Doc Kramer goes over to his left, gets under it now, and makes a one-hand catch. That's all for Livingston, a fly ball to deep center field. The distances here at Wrigley Field, right down the right field line for pole, is 353 feet. Right center field, 368 feet to the wall. In straightaway center field, 400 feet. In left center, 368. And down the left field line, right at the foul line, 355 feet. So this is a pretty good-sized ballpark. The batter now is Roy Hughes. He takes a high curve from Dizzy Trout for ball one. Hughes came up back in the third inning, and in an attempt at sacrifice, he forced out Livingston going into second base. He's a right-hand hitter. Trout pitches him. There's a high curve off the point of the shoulder that drives the hitter back from the plate. So the count is ball 2. 2 balls, no strikes. Derringer is scheduled to hit next for the Cubs. Trout delivers again, and again Hughes leans back from a curve on the inside. It's just above the letters for ball 3. 3 balls, no strikes on the Chicago shortstop. We're in the last half of the fifth inning. 1 away, nobody on. Trout throws and gets a strike in. The automatic number registered. Big Diz visits the Rosenbag now. Looks down at Hughes, delivers him. There's another one in and over for called strike 2. So apparently Jolly Charlie, running the ball club from third base, has ordered Hughes to take 2 to see what Trout was going to do. Now with the 3-2 delivery coming down, it is under the knees low for ball 4. And Hughes becomes a base runner here in the last half of the fifth inning. That, incidentally, is the first base on balls given up by Trout. And it's not going to be Paul Derringer to bat. We're going to have a pinch hitter for him. And the man coming up now is Frank Secory. S-E-C-O-R-Y. Frank Secory hitting here in the last half of the fifth inning. That means Derringer's all through. After having come in the fourth inning, pitched 2/3 of it, and pitched the top of the fifth inning. So Derringer pitched 1 2/3 innings here at Wrigley Field this afternoon. Hy Vandenberg's working in the bullpen, and he'll probably come in to pitch for the Cubs. Now right-handed hitting Frank Secory, tall and broad-shouldered, stands at the plate, and Trout pitches him. A fast curve. It zips over the outside corner, but called strike one. Hughes leads off first. Secory swings on the next pitch, fouls it off the end of his bat, out to the right of the plate. So very quickly now, the count on Frank Secory. Pinch hitting for Paul Derringer here in the last of the fifth inning. No balls, 2 strikes. There's 1 out for Chicago in the last of the fifth, and Hughes, who was walked, is at first base. See that Tommy Bridges is once again warming up in the Detroit bullpen. He's a game little wrister, that Bridges. He's got all the style of any baseball player. Big Dizzy Trout on the mound now is ready to pitch 0-2 to Frank Secory. Takes his sign from Paul Richards. Hughes leads off first. Here comes the 0-2 pitch. He swings on a low curve and misses now for strike 3. So Secory is out of there, and that is the second Cub out in the last half of the fifth inning. Hughes remains at first base. That brings up Stan Hack. Hack came up in the first inning, came up in the third. Twice he was thrown out by members of the infield. Skeeter Webb, the Tiger shortstop, threw him out in the first. And in the third inning, Jimmy Outlaw, the third base for Detroit, threw him out. Hughes takes a moderate lead at first. Rudy York halfway back to his fielding depth. This left-hand hitter up. There's a fast curve at the knees and on the inside. Ball 1. The outfield fans around slightly to right field. Columbine is playing very deep in right. The next pitch to Hack is a low curve under his knees for ball 2. 2 balls, no strikes. 2 out, last half of the fifth inning. And the Cubs have a base runner in Hughes on at first base. He was walked. Trout stretches again, delivers the plate, and again it's low. Stanley Hack now has the count of 3 balls, no strikes. Stan, with that perpetual grin on his face, turns around and says a few words to Jocko Conlon. As time had been called by catcher Richards of Detroit, he walked out all the way to the mound. A few words with Dizzy Trout. Now here comes Richards stomping back behind the plate very slowly. Hack has the count of 3 balls, no strikes. And the left-handed hitter standing very deep at the plate. Trout stretches, comes down with his next pitch, and it's in there for a strike. Just reared back and laid it in. 3-1 is the count on Stan Hack. Trout pitches a fastball. It's swung on, foul tipped. That's strike 2. Now we've got a full count on the Chicago third baseman, Stanley Hack. 3 balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs, 1 on. Hughes at first. Down comes the pitch. Hack swings on it. There's a bounding ball to first. Rudy York comes up with it. The race is on, and York wins. That's all for Stanley Hack, rounding out first baseman Rudy York unassisted. So in the fifth inning for Chicago, no runs, no hits. 1 man, Hughes, was left on at first, and there were no errors. So at the end of 5 full innings of play, it's a 4-0 ball game in favor of the Detroit Tigers over the homestanding Chicago Cubs. And here's how it lines up. The box totals at the end of 5 innings. Detroit, 4 runs on a total of 5 hits. No errors. For Chicago, no runs on 3 hits. And they've committed 1 error. We're going into the top of the 6th inning here at Wrigley Field. The first man up for the visiting Detroit Tigers is going to be Rudy York, who made the put out on Stanley Hack, the last batter for Chicago. York came up in the 2nd inning and hit a ball down to the right side, and Don Johnson, the second baseman, threw him out. We're going into the top of the 6th inning here at Wrigley Field. The first man up for the visiting Detroit Tigers is going to be Rudy York, who made the put out on Stanley Hack, the last batter for Chicago. York came up in the 2nd inning and hit a ball down to the right side, and Don Johnson, the second baseman, threw him out. Rudy then in that big 4th inning that saw the Detroit Tigers pushing across 4 runs, and chasing Prim away from the mound. York came up then and was walked. He'll be followed by Outlaw and then by Richards, or the number 6, the number 7, and number 8 hitters.
Attention, please.
Now High Vandenberg is taking the mound for Chicago. High Vandenberg's taking the mound for Chicago here in the 6th inning. He's the third of the Chicago pitchers. Prim started and pitched 3 1/3 innings. He was lifted in the 4th. And Derringer came on and pitched 1 2/3 innings. So now High Vandenberg is out there for the Chicago Cubs. Harold Vandenberg is 6'3 1/2, weighs 211, comes from Abilene, Kansas. He now makes his home in Minneapolis, Minnesota. He's a pretty good-sized guy, and he comes down with the first pitch to Rudy York, and Rudy swings on it, and there's a high drive into deep left field. Peanuts Lowry shades his eyes from the sun. He's under it now and takes it for the out. That's all for York. Swinging on the first pitched ball and sending a high fly into left field. So Vandenberg gets off to a pretty good start. Vandenberg this year with the Chicago Cubs won 7 ball games and lost 3, a percentage of .700. Of course, this isn't his ball game as it stands right now, nor can it be unless his ball game is tied up. He's on the mound at the time it happens. Here in the 6th inning is Jimmy Outlaw coming up for his 3rd official at-bat, and he's drawn 0 for 2. The right-hand hitter chokes up well on the handle. Takes the first pitch, and Vandenberg has it nicely in for a called strike, just under the letters on the inside corner. No balls, 1 strike. That's the count on Jimmy Outlaw. Vandenberg kicks, throws a curve, and it's just above the lettering of the shirt. That levels the count off at 1-1. So that's the second out at the top of the 6th inning. Now here's Paul Richards. Got himself a single back in the 4th inning to bat in 1 of the Detroit runs. The right-hand hitter takes the first pitch, and Vandenberg slides it right through there for a strike. No balls, 1 strike is the count on Paul Richards. Vandenberg is ready. Delivers to the plate. There's a ball spiked right into the glove. Hughes at shortstop. Richards hits a line drive to the shortstop for the 3rd out in the top of the 6th inning. And there's nothing across. No runs, no hits, no errors, and nobody left. The score at the end of 5 1/2 innings of play is Detroit 4 and Chicago nothing. Well, you know that slugging averages are the measure of power hitting. The player who gets a single in 4 times at bat is hitting .250. But if he gets a homer, he's slugging 1,000. 4 bases in 4 times at bat. That's the slugging average of Gillette Lather Shaving Cream, too, because it produces up to 4 times as much lather as most other brands. Money-wise, that's the difference between 25 cents and $1, and it's worth talking about. Gillette Lather is a superb beard softener. It holds a load of water as a sponge does, and releases it freely, soaking every bristle. And you owe yourself the extra shaving comfort and economy this superior cream gives. So ask your dealer for Gillette Lather Shaving Cream at a quarter. Until recently, our entire production went to the armed forces, but now, week by week, more dealers are getting more Gillette Shaving Cream. Now, we just have a moment's time here before the last half of the 6th inning to pause 10 seconds for station identification. This is the Mutual Broadcasting System.
This is WGN Chicago, serving the Middle West.
Right back at Wrigley Field in Chicago. The last half of the 6th inning, the first man up is Don Johnson, the second baseman. He's 1 hit and 2 tries, and he takes the first pitch. High for ball 1 as Trout comes down with a fast curve. Johnson hits right-handed and stands deep at the plate. Swings on this next pitch, and there's a high foul ball back into the screen. So the count is 1-1 on Don Johnson. Johnson powdered his single back in the 4th inning, and he hit it to center field. He's after the next pitch, and there's a solid drop out into right field. It drops in for a base hit. Bounces up against the wall. Johnson is coming into second base. He's going to try for 3rd. Here comes the throw by Cullenbine, and it's a triple standing up for Johnson. Great day in the morning. Johnson really teed off on that one. Hit an outside pitch deep into right field. It bounced back against the wall, 353 feet away from home plate. And by the time Cullenbine got that ball into the infield, Johnson, very fleet of foot, was on at 3rd base. And that is hit number 4 off Trout. Now the batter is Lowry. And the little left fielder takes a high curve as Trout zips one in there. That's ball 1. Lowry this afternoon has had 1 hit, a single into right field in the 4th inning. He's been up twice. Trout pitches, and Lowry swings, and there's a ground ball hit to Outlaw third. And the runner's trapped between first and third, and the throw goes over to first base instead. And then as Rudy York, after the out is effected, throws back to third base to Jimmy Outlaw, it's wild and into the stands, and the run comes in to score. Well, we'll go over that play again for you. Peanuts Lowry hit down to Outlaw at third. Despite the fact that the runner, Johnson, was caught off at third, Outlaw elected to throw that ball to first base. He did so to Rudy York for the out. Rudy returned that ball back to third base, but his throw was wild and into the stands, and the run comes in to score. Johnson just got right up out of the dirt and came right in. So that is an error on the throw of Rudy York at first base. So that is the first error for Detroit this afternoon. And it's now a 4-1 ball game. Now in the last half of the sixth inning, with one out, nobody on, the score stands 4-1 in favor of the Detroit Tigers. Phil Cabaretta is up at the plate, hitting left-handed. Trout comes down with his first pitch to Phil, and it's a long ball hit deep in the left field. Hank Greenberg backs up near the wall, and he's under it, and he's got it for the out. That's all for Cabaretta. A long fly ball into left field. That's the second out here in the last half of the sixth inning. The score stands 4-1 in favor of the Detroit Tigers over the homestanding Chicago Cubs. The batter now is Andy Pafko. Pafko hitting right-handed. He's 0 for 2. Trout pitches him a high curve right off the point of the chin. That's ball one. So each side this afternoon has an error. Pafko swings on the next pitch and doesn't get it. That levels his count off at 1-1. 1 ball, 1 strike. The bases are empty, 2 outs here in the sixth inning. Pafko swings on the next offering, and there's a high fly ball out into center field. Kramer comes up under it, and he's got it for the out. That's all for Pafko. That's all for the Cubs here in the sixth. They picked themselves up 1 run on 1 hit, nobody left, and there was 1 Detroit error. So at the end of 6 full innings of play, the score is 4-1 in favor of the Detroit Tigers. Ladies and gentlemen, we have just received some very sad news about a former Tiger, Pete Fox, now with the Boston Red Sox. Pete's father died suddenly this morning, and we here all sympathize with Pete Fox. I understand Pete's hunting up in Maine and may not have heard about his father. And if he happens to be tuned into this broadcast, I'm sure he'll want to communicate with the folks. Now we're in the top of the 7th inning here at Wrigley Field in Chicago, and it's Dizzy Trout to be the first man up. In the 3rd inning, he hit a hot line drive right to the glove of Hughes at shortstop. In the 4th inning, he forced out Richards at second base. So he's actually 0 for 2. But as Bill told you earlier in the broadcast, this guy Dizzy Trout at 200 pounds and 6'3", can really lean that wood against a horse hide, and he hits a long ball, and quite often we'll park one in the stands for you on occasion. Right now, he's cleaning off his glasses behind home plate and talking to Jocko Conlon, the National League umpire, who is working balls and strikes behind the plate here at Wrigley Field this afternoon. Out on the mound, Hy Vandenberg, the right-hander, is getting ready to go. You know, Hy came in and pitched here in this ball game in the 6th inning when Derringer was lifted in favor of Frank Sikori as a pinch hitter. And now Trout gets a nice round of applause as he steps up to the plate here in the 7th inning. The score, the Tigers 4 and the Chicago Cubs 1. Vandenberg, big right-hander, delivers, and Trout at the plate takes a curve nicely in and over for called strike 1. Vandenberg works again. Trout ignores it. The curve is high. Now the count is 1-1. 1 ball, 1 strike. This is the top of the 7th inning. Vandenberg takes his sign from Livingston. Pumps twice. Stops, twists, throws. A high curve swung on viciously and missed by Trout. He was really trying to lace into that one. Vandenberg came down with a very nice curveball, sort of a change of pace variety. But Trout didn't time it. His count now is 1 ball, 2 strikes. Trout swings on the next pitch, and there's a high foul ball up to the left of the plate.
and goes back into the second tier. So the count stays right on at 1-2. 1 ball, 2 strikes. The outfield is playing Trout very deep. They respect him as a hitter. He's a good ball player. Swings on this next pitch, and there's a high fly ball out back of third base. Hughes, the shortstop, goes over under it. Now he's near the line, and he takes it for the out. That's all for Trout. Pops up and out into very short left field. Hughes scampers over and takes it. The batter now for Detroit is Skeeter Webb. Webb's been up there 3 times today. In the first inning, he was thrown out by Hack. Again in the 4th inning, Hack threw him out. And in the 5th, the Skeeter struck out. So he's been up 15 times and has had 3 hits in the series. Right-hand hitter crouches over slightly. Vandenberg delivers him, and there's a fastball hit right down to Cavaretta. He dives over to his right, stops it, throws the ball over to first base to Vandenberg, who is covering, and the out has been effected. Very nice play on the part of Cavaretta. He doesn't think about himself, does Phil. He's all intent upon making that play, and if a ball is hit to his right or left, he doesn't hesitate a moment to dive after it. He's right off his feet. Well, he knocked that one down and made the play. Made quite a play yesterday on Briggs Stadium in Detroit. The batter now for Detroit is Eddie Mayo. He's gone 0 for 2. He was walked once. The left-hand hitter takes a curve that's floated in and over. They're called strike. It looked as though it was going to take quite a while for that pitch to make the plate. It finally did and flipped in and over. No balls, 1 strike is the count on Ed Mayo, the second baseman. Vandenberg easily delivers again. There's another one of those change of pace jobs, and it's in for strike 2. Mayo doesn't move a muscle. Now he pumps the bat once, twice. Vandenberg looks at him, delivers him. There's another medium-speed curveball that's laced down to shortstop. Hughes digs it out of the dirt, makes his quick throw to Phil Cavaretta. And that's all for Mayo, going out from short to first. That's the 3rd out for Detroit in the 7th inning. There's nothing across. Well, one of the greatest southpaws of all time, King Carl Hubbell, first pitcher to perfect the screwball and use it effectively, is here beside me in the broadcasting booth. Carl now heads the Giants' far-flung farm system, which he hopes will develop stars for future World Series. Come on in here, Carl, and tell the folks what you said to me just last night down at the hotel.
You mean about the slick shaves I get with my Gillette razor?
Yes, with your Gillette razor and the Gillette Blue Blade.
Well, Al, that's the winning combination, the greatest shaving team on earth. It's kept my face feeling in the pink for over 20 years. In fact, I wouldn't think of trying to shave with anything else.
Thanks, Carl Hubbell. And I might add, you look right in the pink right now, too. Well, fellas, you get the most refreshing shaves a man can have with today's Gillette Blue Blade. So, look sharp, feel sharp, be sharp. Use Gillette Blue Blades with the sharpest edges ever honed. Now for the last half of the 7th inning here at Wrigley Field in Chicago. The score stands the Tigers 4 and the Chicago Cubs 1. And Bad Bill Nicholson, who twice has struck out, is up at the plate. And Dizzy Trout makes the first pitch, and Nicholson swings and misses for a strike. A wave of expectancy running through the crowd here now. The last half of the 7th inning of the home half. They'd like to see the Chicago Cubs get going, and Nicholson swings on the next pitch now and fouls it off into the screen. The count on Bill is no balls, 2 strikes. Dizzy Trout has given up 4 hits to Chicago, and an error has cost him a run. He works a medium-speed curveball into Nicholson, and it's outside for ball 1. 1 ball, 2 strikes. That's the count on Bill Nicholson, standing very deep at the plate, crouched over. Boy, he's a husky guy. It's left-handed. He swings on this next pitch and taps it out in front of the plate. Trout comes down, fields it, throws to York. Just by a spike, it's in time for the out. Nicholson almost had that one beaten out. He hit it right off the end of his bat, down to the mound, and Trout had to hurriedly field that one. Rudy York stretched as far as he possibly could at first base and grabbed that ball just off the shoulder point of the flying Bill Nicholson. So that's 1 out in the last half of inning number 7. The batter coming up to the plate is Mickey Livingston. Livingston has had 1 hit and 2 tries. Mickey got a single in the left center field back in the 3rd inning. As a matter of fact, he got the first hit given up by Trout in this ball game. Mickey's a good, dependable catcher. As Bill told you, he's got quite a competitive spirit. Trout fires a fast one in there, and it's high, just above the letters of the shirt for ball 1. One out for Chicago in the last of the seventh. The score stands the Tigers 4 and the Cubs 1. Trout right hands the next one in. It's a good one for a strike. Just above the knees and right through the middle. Got a lot of activity down in the Chicago bullpen. We'll have those boys for you in a minute. Trout takes his sign now from Paul Richards. Livingston, right-hand hitter, sort of crowds up on the plate. Swings on this next pitch, and there's a fly ball going out into right center field. Kramer comes over very nicely for it, makes a nice running catch. He was backed up by Cullenbine, just in case Kramer might have missed it. But old Duck can really go get him, and he grabbed it. That's the second out now in the last half of the seventh inning for Chicago. And the batter is scheduled to be Hughes, but I doubt seriously whether Hughes is going to hit, as it looks as though we may have a pinch hitter for him. And if Hughes goes out of there, probably Len Marullo will come in to play shortstop. Heinz Becker, I believe, is going to hit for him. Well, our announcement has just been verified by the public address announcer that Becker is going to hit for Hughes here in the seventh inning. Heinz Becker, big 6-foot fella, hits left-handed. Takes the first pitch. Trout pours it right through there for a strike. Is Heinz Becker, born in Berlin, Germany, now makes his home down in Texas. He's a nice fellow to talk to. Swings on the next pitch and doesn't get it. So very quickly on this pinch hitter, Heinz Becker, the count is no balls and 2 strikes. He's hitting for Hughes. Len Marullo is down there warming up. He'll probably come in to play shortstop in the last half, or in the first half of the 8th inning. Now Trout is ready. Delivers to this pinch hitter. Becker swings on it and fouls it right back into the stands, right below us here. And that was a hard hit ball. Somebody reached up and grabbed it. Oh, in a gray overcoat. Puts it in his pocket. He's going to be ready. Take that home. Down comes the next pitch to Becker, and he swings on it. And there's a clean base hit wrapped through the hole between short and third, not into left field. So the pinch hitter, sent up by Charlie Grimm, Heinz Becker, singles into left. And Marullo is going to get down and run for him. Len Marullo will run for Heinz Becker.
Take it, please. Ready. Marullo. Ready for second. Ready. Marullo.
Len Marullo has now taken the place of Heinz Becker at first base. Becker is troubled with bad ankles. At the plate is Paul Gillespie to hit for Hy Vandenberg. Gillespie is batting for Vandenberg here in the 7th inning, so Charlie Grimm is throwing everything he possibly can. Looks as though Chipman may come in and pitch the 8th inning. Gillespie swings on the first pitch and hits it wide of first base. York fields it. There's Trout covering it first to throw to Trout in time for the out. And that's all for Gillespie, going out from 3-1. So that's all for the Cubs here in the 7th inning. No runs, 1 hit, 1 man left, and no errors. Well, before we get into the 8th inning, I'd just like to say, remember, fans, that our very good friend Bill Corum of the New York Journal American Sports staff will summarize today's game at the conclusion of our play-by-play report. So stay tuned right on here for Bill Corum's highlights. They're well worth hearing about. Now we're going into the top half of the 8th inning. Kramer will be the first man up for the Tigers. He'll be followed by Greenberg and in by Cullenbine. And the new pitcher that's coming in for the Chicago Cubs is going to be big right-hander Paul Erickson and not Chipman. Erickson coming in to pitch here in the 8th inning. Erickson. Erickson pitching in the 8th. This is his second relief job in the series. Erickson's been quite a boy here at Chicago. He's been a very well-liked fella. He's 6'2" and weighs about 200 pounds. He makes his home right here in Chicago, Illinois. And he was born in Zion, Illinois, back in 1917. And the other change on the Chicago inner defense is Len Marullo. Very flashy and snappy shortstop has gone in at short. If you recall, Heinz Becker hit for Hughes and drilled a single back in the 7th inning. Marullo came in to run for him. So the inner defense now for Chicago, as the first man coming to bat is Doc Kramer. Paul Erickson pitching. Livingston catching. At first base is Cavaretta. At second is Johnson. At short is Len Marullo. And at third base, Stan Hank. The first pitch is swung on by Kramer, and there's a high fly ball going out back of shortstop, right into short left field. Len Marullo's first chance, and the young fellow's got it for the out. That's all for Kramer, popping up and out to shortstop Len Marullo. So that's one out now in the top of the 8th inning for the Detroit Tigers. That brings up Hank Greenberg, who batted in one of the 4 runs the Tigers now possess here in this 4th game. The score stands: the Tigers 4 and the Cubs 1. Greenberg stands in, just off the plate, hits right-handed. He's a towering fellow with a lot of power. It's Erickson's big square-shouldered fellow, and he delivers a fast curve under the lettering of the shirt, but on the outside for ball 1. 1 ball, no strike on Hank Greenberg. Hank was walked in the 5th inning, singled to left in the 4th inning to drive in a run. He hammered across Mayo, who was on at second base at the time. Struck out, however, back in the 2nd inning. He takes a pitch again, and this one's low for ball 2. Erickson throws a lot of sidearm stuff. He just worked one in on Greenberg that time. Boy, that outfield is really playing deep to Hank. Erickson throws sidearm, and crossfire is good on the outside corner for a strike. 1-2 is the count on Hank Greenberg. We're in the top of the 8th inning with 1 out, nobody on here at Wrigley Field in Chicago. Erickson tries a curveball that's swung on by Hank Greenberg and drilled right back onto the screen foul. Well, the count is 2-2 now, 2 balls, 2 strikes. That doesn't seem to worry Hank Greenberg much. He's just as cool as a piece of ice up at that plate. Hank waits. Here comes the 2-2 delivery. It's a sidearm curve. It's swung on and missed for strike 3. That's the first strikeout for Erickson. That's strikeout number 3 against the Tigers this afternoon. Now the batter stepping up to the plate, and once again hitting left-handed is Cullenbine. Cullenbine's a switch hitter. Got himself a double. Back in the 4th inning is a right-handed hitter. Erickson delivers him. Cullenbine takes a curve. It slides off outside for ball 1. Cullenbine in the 5th inning taken care of, unassisted by Phil Cavaretta, the first baseman. Cullenbine has 1 hit, 3 at-bats. The only hit he's had in the series. Erickson tries a high curve. It stays outside for ball 2. 2 balls, no strikes. Top of the 8th inning, 2 outs, no base runners. The score, Tigers 4 and the Cubs 1. Cubs lead in this series, 2-1. They've won 2 games. The Tigers have won 1, but they're bidding right now to make an even Steven. Erickson's pitch is a curveball that is low under the knees of Cullenbine. Very quickly, Roy has the count of 3 balls, no strikes. Cullenbine draws a good many base on balls because he's a pretty good guardian of the plate. He's got a sharp eye, as the boys say. 3-0 is the count on Cullenbine. 2 outs, nobody on in the 8th. Erickson tries a curveball. It's outside for ball 4. So Cullenbine draws his first walk this afternoon. That's the first base on balls given up by Erickson. That's the 4th. Handed to the visiting Detroit Tigers this afternoon. The batter now is old Kickapoo Rudy York, the old Cherokee Indian. He's a big fella. Ever shake hands with that fella? Boy, he really squeezes it. He's 0 for 2 for the afternoon. He walked in the 4th inning. He takes the first pitch, and it's a nice curve above his knees, and on the inside slice for called strike. The outfield fans around the left and backs up very deep to York. He hits an awful long ball. Erickson quickly throws over to first, and Cullenbine is pretty hard pressed to get in ahead of that throw. Down comes the next pitch, and York hits it down to second. Johnson comes up with it nicely after gliding over to his left and throws him out to first base. So that's all for York, going out 4-3, and that's all for the Tigers here in the 8th. No runs, no hits, 1 man left, and there were no errors. So at the end of 7.5 innings of play, the score stands: the Tigers 4 and the Cubs 1. Carl Hubble, famous member of the New York Giants, referred to the Gillette razor and Gillette blue blade a while ago as the greatest shaving team on earth. Yes, and team is the word for it. These two are made for each other, same factory, same skilled craftsmen, same high-precision standards. So they fit exactly, work together perfectly, and turn in the best performance known in shaving. For instance, when you place a Gillette blue blade in your Gillette razor and tighten the holder, the shaving edges line up exactly parallel with the guard and extend just the right distance for clean, smooth, comfortable shaving. Fans, you get the slickest, easiest shaves in the book, and avoid all the irritating effect of misfit blades and faulty shaving methods. So look sharp, feel sharp, be sharp. Use Gillette blue blades with the sharpest edges ever honed. Now here is the first man up at the plate in the last half of the 8th inning, and that means it's going to be Stanley Camfield Hack. The first pitch comes in, and it's high for ball one. Down rides the next offering, and it's through there for a strike. So the count is 1-1 on Stanley Camfield Hack. Last half of the 8th inning. Hack steps forward toward this pitch and then takes it, and it's a snapping curve outside for ball two. 2 balls, 1 strike. Hack starting the 4th batting around for the Cubs, and he himself has not hit yet today. He's been up there 3 times, and 3 times he's been thrown out by someone on the infield. Either that or someone on the infield has taken care of the out. He swings on this next pitch, and there's a ground ball to short. Skeeter Webb over, under it, and grabs it. Fires it over to Rudy York. That's all. Hack is out of there. Going out 6-3. That was a high-bounding ball. So that's 1 out in the last half of the 8th inning. The batter up there now is Don Johnson. Gets a nice round of applause. Don tripled back in the 6th inning. He singled in the 4th, so he has 2 hits for 3 at-bats. Trout pitches him, and it's a high curve right under the chin for a shave in ball 1. Johnson hitting right-handed, standing very deep at the plate. Swings on this pitch, and there's a bounding ball to short. Skeeter Webb goes over nicely to his right. Scoops it, throws to first just in time, and that's all for Johnson. That guy Webb's playing himself a pretty good game at shortstop here this afternoon, as far as defensive baseball is concerned. That's the second out for Chicago here in the last half of the 8th inning. The batter now is Lowry. Peanuts got a hit in the 4th inning, single to right field. He was moved down to second, but there he died. As Cavaretta struck out, Pafko went out second first, and then Nicholson struck out. The Peanut takes the first pitch, and it's just off the peak of his cap on the inside for ball 1. Trout monkeying around on the mound, kicks a little dirt, now pumps, throws, another fastball. It's an attempted bunt at the plate, and falls down to the right of the plate foul. So the count is 1-1 on Peanuts Lowry. Jocko Conlon could be heard yelling foul clear up here in the radio booth. Lowry chokes up a little more on the bat now. Trout is ready to pitch 1-1. Down it comes. Lowry takes it under his knees low. Ball 2. 2 balls, 1 strike. 2 outs in the 8th inning, nobody on. And Lowry up at bat. The score is Detroit 4 and Chicago 1. Trout has really been whipping that ball down this afternoon like a streak of light. He's over his head now, twists, throws, there's another fast one. And it's in there for a strike. That's strike 2. Lowry started to go for that. He pulled his bat up, however. It was in there anyway. Trout gets ready. Delivers, it's swung on and missed for strike 3. And that's all for Lowry, and that's all for the Cubs here in the 8th inning. It's number 5 as far as strikeouts are concerned. There's nothing across for Chicago here in the 8th inning. No runs, no hits, no errors, and nobody left. Well, here a great reporter highlight today's game the very minute it's over. I'd like you all to stay tuned for Bill Corum of the New York Journal American Sports Staff and enjoy his colorful summary at the conclusion of our play-by-play report from Wrigley Field here in Chicago. And we've got a little time before the 9th inning breaks forth upon us to pause 10 seconds for station identification. Remember, men, look sharp, feel sharp, be sharp. Use Gillette blue blades with the sharpest edges ever honed. This is the Mutual Broadcasting System.
This is WGN Chicago, serving the Middle West.
Now for the top half of inning number 9. Right here at Wrigley Field in Chicago in his fourth game of the 1945 World Series, the score stands the Tigers 4 and the Chicago Cubs 1. And the first man up for the Tigers is going to be Outlaw. The third baseman has been up there 3 times, and he's failed to get a base hit. Out on the mound, Paul Erickson, the tall, blonde right-hander, makes his first pitch, and little Jimmy at the plate takes a curve under his knees for ball 1. 1 ball, no strikes. The outfield is playing more or less straight away to Outlaw, and they don't play very deep. However, Len Marullo, the shortstop for Chicago, is playing back on the grass, right on the edge of the grass, and pulled down in the hole at short. There's a curveball laced very solidly into left field for a solid base hit for the little Tennessee Jimmy Outlaw. Solid wrap into left. That is hit number 1 off Erickson. Now with a base runner on for Detroit here in the top of the 9th inning, the batter is Paul Richards. Richards came up in the 4th inning, got a single to center field, thereby driving in a run. He attempts to bunt this first pitch offered by Erickson and misses completely for strike 1. So apparently Steve O'Neill, the Detroit manager, isn't satisfied with a 3-run lead. He'd like to work somebody around to second and put them in scoring position. Richards, tall right-hand hitter, standing very deep at the plate. Erickson checks his runner, throws to the plate. Richards swings and misses. That's strike 2. No balls, 2 strikes. The outfield is playing deep to this right-hand hitter and fanned around toward left. Erickson sights, throws. Richards swings and strikes out. That's all for Richards. As far as strikeouts are concerned, that is Erickson's second win. Now the man coming up to the plate, do a little hitting for Detroit, is Dizzy Trout. Here he comes, and listen to that round of applause for him. He's pitched a good game. Yes, sir, old Diz has been a dandy here this afternoon. He's pitched a lot of baseball for Detroit. Right now he's kicking the mud out of his spikes with the meat end of the bat. The right-hand hitter digs in now. 1 out in the top of the 9th and a base runner at first. That's Jimmy Outlaw. Erickson delivers a sidearm curve that Trout swings on and beats down into the ground foul for a strike. No balls, 1 strike. We're in the top half of inning number 9 with the Tigers leading the Cubs 4-1. Erickson, the 4th of the Chicago pitchers, settles down, now delivers. There's a ball hit very sharply down to third. Hack dives over, knocks it down, but by the time he gets after it and picks it up, he cannot make a play, and all hands are safe. And Hack dove out to his left, but it's a base hit for Trout. Right off the glove of Stanley Hack at third. Outlaw moved down to second. He throws right on to the Keystone. And that's hit number 2 off Erickson. Number 7, as far as Detroit is concerned. Now with runners at first and second, and 1 out. The batter coming up to the plate is Skeeter Webb. The Detroit shortstop this afternoon has been up there 4 times, and he's hitless. Right now is the time, I imagine, that the Skeeter would like to bash one. Erickson takes his sign from Livingston, throws to the plate. Webb's after it, but there's a high foul ball going way back of right field and falls way back into the seats. So that's just a long strike to Skeeter Webb. His count now is no balls, 1 strike. He very viciously pumps his bat back and forth now. The right-hand hitter takes the next pitch under his knees, and the ball gets away from Livingston. There is the break for third by Outlaw, and he gets down and slides under the peg. Stanley Hack tries to put it on him, but he couldn't do it. And the ball got away from Mickey Livingston, allowing Outlaw to come down from second. Livingston retrieved that ball all right, threw it to Stanley Hack, and his throw was a little high, and the flailing spikes of Outlaw came into third base under the tag. And it's a pass ball on Richardson. A pass ball on Livingston. Down comes the next pitch, and there's a curveball, ball 2. So the count is 2 balls, 1 strike. We're going to check the official score on that pass ball verdict to make sure that it's a pass ball and not a wild pitch. However, Outlaw is now at third. He broke. Down comes the pitch, and there comes Outlaw in, and he's caught between home and third as the pitch to plate was taken low, and the peg went right back to Stanley Hack, and as Outlaw tried to get back in, he was tagged out. So the count is 3-1 on Skeeter Webb, the hitter, and Jimmy Outlaw having a mental lapse for the moment. started to go for home plate, and then he pulled up as he saw Livingston come up with that ball, and it was fired right back to Stanley Hack for the out. So that's the second Detroit out. Webb swings on this next pitch, and there's a high fly ball going to deep right field. Nicholson goes back for the wall and takes it for the out. That's all for Webb, and that's all for the Tigers here in the top of the ninth inning. No runs. 2 hits. There was a man left, and there were no errors. 1 passed ball, and that's charged against Mickey Livingston. So we're going into the last half of the ninth inning. And for the Detroit Tigers, they have a total of 4 runs. We'll count the hits up for you very rapidly. See, 4, 5, 6, 7. The Tigers have 4 runs, 7 hits, and they have committed 1 error. That was Rudy York's error, throwing wild over third base back in the 5th inning. In the last half of the ninth inning for the Chicago Cubs, the first man up is Phil Cavaretta. He'll be followed by Andy Pafko, and then by right fielder Bill Nicholson. So this is more or less the part of the batting order that Charlie Grimm would have selected had he been given an opportunity to select the 3 men he wanted up at the plate in the last half of the ninth. It's a 4-1 ball game going into the last half of the ninth inning, with the Chicago Cubs 3 runs behind. And we're waiting now for Dizzy Trout to come out and get on the mound there and start pitching. Dizzy's back in the dugout right now, taking his good old time, mopping off his brow, cleaning his glasses. And Jocko Conlon, the plate umpire, he's the National League umpire, has gone over to the dugout, waiting for Dizzy Trout to come out. Dizzy's wiping off his arms now, wiping off his forehead. Dizzy's had quite an afternoon. Trout looks up through his glasses now as he steps up onto the top of the steps of the dugout. Now here he comes to make his appearance. It's a 4-1 count in favor of the Detroit Tigers here in the 4th game of the World Series. The Chicago Cubs, you know, have won 2, and the Tigers have won 1. So they're bidding this afternoon, are these Tigers, to even up the series at 2-all. Trout has just made his appearance on the mound right this minute. Of course, he'll be given an opportunity to throw a couple of warm-up pitches down to his battery mate, Paul Richards. And now, because of the fact that you'll be wanting to know what defensive measures the Tigers are taking, let's set them for you defensively. Out on the mound is Dizzy Trout. His battery mate behind the plate is Paul Richards. At first base is Rudy York. At second base is Eddie Mayo. At short is Skeeter Webb. At third base is Jimmy Outlaw. Out in left field is Hank Greenberg. Doc Kramer is in center field, and in right field is Roy Cullenbine. As we start the last of the ninth inning with Cavaretta up there, the score stands the Tigers 4 and the Cubs 1. Cavaretta, hitting left-handed, has been up in this ball game 3 times. Twice he struck out, and the last time up was in the 6th inning, and he was out on a fly ball to left field. Trout pitches, and there's a fast curve. It's hit out into straightaway center field. Going back for it is Kramer. He's under it now, and he has it for the out. That's all for Cavaretta here in the 9th inning, and that's 1 away for Chicago. The batter is Andy Pafko. Andy's quite a runner. As has been observed by a couple of the scribes, he's about as fast as a Minnesota halfback. At least Minnesota used to have quite a reputation for having a pair of fast-running halfbacks. And this guy Pafko can really move. However, he hasn't hit today and 3 times up. Trout curves this right-hand hitter, and there's a ball hit down wide of third. Outlaw goes over, makes a nice stop and a quick throw to first base to York in time for the out. Kid Outlaw really dived over to his left and came up with a hard-hit ground ball. Very neat play on the part of third baseman Outlaw. And now with 2 outs here in the last of the 9th inning, quite a few of the folks are starting to go for the exit gates. It's Nicholson up there, and he struck out twice and hit back to the pitcher in the 7th inning and was thrown out. Bill Nicholson 0 for 3 for the afternoon. Dizzy Trout trying to wind this one up. Trout gets ready, flips it in there, and Nicholson swings on it, and there's a tremendously high foul ball up and back. Paul Richards comes back for the screen and has it for the out. That's all in the 9th inning. The ball game is all over for the Cubs in the 9th. No runs, no hits, no errors, and nobody left. Here are the final totals. Detroit 4 runs, 7 hits, and 1 error. Chicago 1 run, 5 hits, and 1 error. The winning pitcher, of course, is Trout, and the losing pitcher is Taffy Prim. Well, Bill Corum is pushing his way to the broadcasting booth to give you his summary of today's game. While we're waiting, let me remind you that in sending Christmas gifts to servicemen and women, avoid shipping things that are fragile or perishable. It's no treat to open a box of melted chocolates or moldy fruit and stale cake. Don't send anything bulky. Most servicemen have very little space for their personal belongings, and mostly must carry them on their backs. Don't send things they can get easily at post exchanges or ship stores. Try to find out as much as you can about their wants. Now for some do's. Use a strong box. Wrap securely. Address plainly. And above all, mail before October 15th. If your man is en route home, of course, save that gift and hang it on the tree. He'll really appreciate it. And now the man who really takes baseball inside out. And he's going to take this game inside out, I know. And you're going to want to hear what he has to say, because I want to hear what he has to say, too. Uncle Billy?
Right. Al, nobody can take this ball game inside out but the fellow who's already done it, Dizzy Trout of the Tigers. The little bear fished for the Trout in misty rain, shadow, and bright sunshine here this afternoon, but Bruin couldn't catch him. The wary old Trout, Detroit's great Dizzy, of course, was too elusive, much too elusive. He was the Trout of midsummer form and last year's form when he won 27 games in the American League, fast as a bullet, all around the plate, and in very little trouble. Indeed, it could easily have been that he would have pitched a shutout here this afternoon. Bill Terry, great first baseman of a few years back and giant manager since then, all baseball fans know, up here from Memphis for the series, sitting just behind me down in the press box, said Trout was extremely fast, and while he didn't think as fast as Trucks the other day in Detroit, fast enough at least to stand the Cubs, who like to hit fastball pitching normally, on their heads. He was a master out there this afternoon, and now O'Neill is sort of back in the driver's seat, because tomorrow when we come out here for this 5th game of the World Series, or the 5th game of the World Series in this beautiful park here in Chicago, one of baseball's loveliest show places, if not its loveliest. And I haven't heard the figures on the crowd, by the way, but as the folks file away from here, I should say that there must have been at least 45,000 people here, because there were an awful lot of standees. Now, the official figures may have come over here and we didn't get them, but I haven't heard them, and they may fool that, but I think that that's about what it will come to. Better than 44,000, I'm sure. There were about 1,000 soldiers out there, and of course there are innumerable newspaper men up in a special press box up on the upper level, so we can't be sure about the pay, but let's say around 45,000. Well, getting back to the pitching, Prim matched Trout right along through the first 3 innings, and the old grandpappy fellow from out there in sunny California looked as if he might be going to have a field day too, but the Tigers got to him, and they seemed to play this game 4 runs or no count, because they won 2 games in the series now, and each time they scored 4 runs in the inning, and it was Greenberg again who started them off, but they were roaring after Prim at that time and came right along and might easily have scored again in the last inning if the ball game hadn't been practically over and the base runner hadn't got a little careless down there on third base. It was a kind of a bad play, but it meant nothing, because it was pretty certain by that time that the Tigers had the game all wrapped up and in the bat bag. And when Steve O'Neill comes out here tomorrow and we come out tomorrow, he's going to be sitting pretty high up there in the honey seat, because he's got Newhouser and Trucks, and now Trout, who wasn't good at the end of the American League season, seemed to be very tired and faded out, having pitched this beautiful game here this afternoon. And the totals, in case you didn't get them when Al gave them to you, were 4 runs, 7 hits, 1 error, 6 left for the Tigers, 1 run, 5 hits, 1 error, and 5 left for the home boys. And that shows you what a nice game Trout pitched. He also got brilliant support this afternoon. Jimmy Outlaw at third base made a beautiful play there in the 9th inning. Skeeter Webb, too, all over the field. He's been a tower of strength to this ball club, and he happens to be, by the way, Steve O'Neill's son-in-law. He played beautifully in the field, and old Roger Kramer was all around out there with Phil Cavaretta. Nailed that one in the ninth inning, the last gasp of the Little Bears, and drove it almost to the center field wall. There was old Roger to snatch it out of the ivy, or whatever that is that's growing out there. I'm not very good on clinging vines or cullen vines or whatnot, but something is growing out there, and he was right up against it when he got that one. The whole Detroit team played well. Richards got his first hit of the series. Cullenbine switching over, a switch hitter, you know, getting over on the right side of the plate after Prim had been relieved, put in the two-base hit down the third base line. That was the smash that really carried that big 4-run rally for the Tigers, and it was his first hit of the series, and Richards then came through with his a little later on to score another run for his first hit. So they're hitting two, and the Cubs, in spite of their defeat, were meeting the ball solidly, and as I said, it took some flashy fielding to peg them back. They'll be out there hitting again with Hack and Cavaretta and all of them, playing the good game that they've played. By the way, Nicholson turned in the first Cub error of the series in right field this afternoon. So this has been a good series from a fielding standpoint beyond any question. 2 errors for the Tigers in yesterday's game and 1 for the Cubs today, and that's all for the series. Well, broadcasting time tomorrow for the 5th game in this great series is 1:15 Eastern Standard Time, same as today. Plan to be with us, fans, and we come out tomorrow. He's going to be sitting pretty high up there in the honey seat because he's got Newhouser in trucks, and now Trout, who wasn't good at the end of the American League season, seemed to be very tired and faded out, having pitched this beautiful game here this afternoon. And the totals, in case you didn't get them when Al gave them to you, were 4 runs, 7 hits, 1 error, 6 left for the Tigers, 1 run, 5 hits, 1 error, and 5 left for the home boys. And that shows you what a nice game Trout pitched. He also got brilliant support this afternoon. Jimmy Outlaw at third base made a beautiful play there in the 9th inning. Skeeter Webb, too, all over the field. He's been a tower of strength to this ball club, and he happens to be, by the way, Steve O'Neill's son-in-law. He played beautifully in the field, and old Roger Kramer was all around out there with Phil Cavaretta. Nailed that one in the 9th inning, the last gasp of the Little Bears, and drove it almost to the center field wall. There was old Roger to snatch it out of the ivy, or whatever that is that's growing out there. I'm not very good on clinging vines or cullen vines or whatnot, but something is growing out there, and he was right up against it when he got that one. The whole Detroit team played well. Richards got his first hit of the series. Cullenbine switching over, a switch hitter, you know, getting over on the right side of the plate after Prim had been relieved, put in the two-base hit down the third base line. That was the smash that really carried that big 4-run rally for the Tigers, and it was his first hit of the series, and Richards then came through with his a little later on to score another run for his first hit. So they're hitting two, and the Cubs, in spite of their defeat, were meeting the ball solidly, and as I said, it took some flashy fielding to peg them back. They'll be out there hitting again with Hack and Cavaretta and all of them, playing the good game that they've played. By the way, Nicholson turned in the first Cub error of the series in right field this afternoon. So this has been a good series from a fielding standpoint beyond any question. 2 errors for the Tigers in yesterday's game and 1 for the Cubs today, and that's all for the series. Well, broadcasting time tomorrow for the 5th game in this great series is 1:15 Eastern Standard Time, same as today. Plan to be with us, fans, and we'll have some more fun. Until then, smooth sailing, smooth shaving, and good afternoon from your host, the Gillette Safety Razor Company, Al Helfer, Bill Slater, and Uncle Bill Coral. Remember, look sharp, feel sharp, be sharp. Use Gillette Blue Blades with the sharpest edges ever honed.